On a certain day 10 billion people on Earth were forced into the world of mayhem and were all shocked and terrified. In the world of mayhem there are demons everywhere with demonic beasts running far and wide, the glooms of death flows. The people thrown into mayhem fought hard to subdue these monsters to their best, killing in desperation and the rising fast. Will our protagonist be able to go against the odd to get to the top of the world, trampling all other being under him? A city named randomly stood firm in a blue star dragon country as the sun shone brightly on it, reflecting the tall buildings. People with different backgrounds and different occupation walked towards their locations. The protagonist was also walking his way. Suddenly some of the citizens stopped and looked up to the sky. It seems like it was getting cloudy and they were all puzzled. All of the citizens focused and looked to the sky as one of the citizens questioned what was going on and asked why the sky was dark. The protagonist was startled by the behavior of the citizens and stopped. He looked puzzled at a lady pointing onto the sky. The protagonist was puzzled by the behavior of the citizens, so he turned back to look at the sky and know what they were looking at. By now the sky has already been clouded and only a bit of sunshine could be seen. The peoples began panicking. Some of the citizens stated that something was coming out from the sky. Some already lost hope as they sat on the ground. Suddenly a white cloudy smoke was sent down from the dark sky, floating around the city without prior notice. Suddenly a glitching window started appearing in front of the protagonist, obviously startled as he questioned what it was. The protagonist was startled when a clear status window just like in games appeared in front of him and he moved back. He looked around and saw that everyone just like him can also see this status window that have only being read in novels. The protagonist raised his hand up to touch the status window and realized that it had an advanced features. Suddenly the status window announced that the mayhem world was opening soon and the people were feeling despair. The status window announced again that the world of mayhem, also known as the world of slaughter, was opening. It was announced that the able-bodied people aged from 15 to 50 all around the world will be teleported into the world of mayhem. This world is filled with rampant beasts, warriors, opportunities and treasures, but one could die easily or gain eternal life. Suddenly a light shone from the sky down to the people chosen to embark on the dangerous journey on the world of slaughter. The citizens began to panic because they found out they were stuck inside the light and began hitting the light wall profusely. Outside one of the light wall, a little kid could be seen crying out to her mom because she couldn't reach out to her, and the mom was also panicking. The protagonist didn't panic as he looked at his glitching hand and questioned if aliens were really invading Blue Star. The protagonist looked up as he cursed. Then the system announced that Earth only had chance for redemption and told them good luck. The protagonist appeared at somewhere else, falling from the sky as the system welcomed them to the beginner's village. Looking down from the sky, the protagonist could see a village with small houses and a bird flying around sky. Then the protagonist fell into one of the house, but his posture was bad. He exclaims that the world didn't seem quite friendly. The protagonist sat up and looked at the status window that appeared out of nowhere and stated that what it said about Kyling was true. Then the system announced that they were currently in the beginner's wood house, blessed by God for different use. The protagonist looked at the status window and stated that it looked similar to game panel. Then the character information attracted him. He looked at his character information and saw that it only had few points on it and questions what level it was in this world. The protagonist wanted to open the world channel but he couldn't, but he was able to open the channel of the village he was in. Each of the people were complaining about where they were panicking and scared. Some were already crying and felt hopeless. The protagonist taps on one of the comments section and saw two people discussing about their ability. One of them was named Wang Chang. Then the protagonist found out that combat ability is related to his 4 attributes. If he increase his attributes, he have a chances to survive. For now the people were mostly 1 star and some reached 1 star limit, while others' attributes show that they are not even entered 1 star. Looking at what others said, the highest scores was 13 for mind attributes, but the protagonist was not even half of it. The system announced that according to their attributes and talent, each of them will awaken their own talents. The system reminded them that talents were graded into F to SSS, and F was the weakest and SS to above were unique talents. The protagonist stood still inside the wooden house and looked at the comments from different people as they complained. The system questioned if the protagonist wanted to awaken his talent, and he agreed without second thoughts this was his chance. Suddenly the protagonist appeared in a huge space filled with blue round matters and sparkling stars just like a galaxy. Just as the protagonist was looking around, one of the blue round matters rushed towards him and he evaded it. The protagonist states that he had came to a weird place and questioned what the blue round matters was. Holding his chin, the protagonist concluded that according to the novels he had read, this was related to awakening talents. Just as the protagonist came to a conclusion, another round blue matter rushed towards him and he evaded it. He exclaimed that he must find the strongest special ball as he looked around the huge galaxy space filled with balls. Suddenly his eyes widened as a fast blue ball rushed towards him without giving him a chance and hit him on the belly. He exclaimed, was shocked as he looked at his stomach and questioned what the hell just happened to him. Suddenly the protagonist screamed out and the system announced that he had awakened an SSS talent called Endless Extract. The protagonist breathes heavily as the system told him that his ability can extract any target's talent. The protagonist was surprised that unexpectedly he had awakened a unique talent and stated that he needed to check the effect. Just then the system notification showed that the village newbie talent awakening has been completed. Most of the people awakened F and E rank and only 2% awakened D rank, which meant that his SSS-Rank talent was extremely rare. Other than him, another person awakened a high talent, but he didn't know who it was. He questions if it will be SSS-Rank like him. Suddenly the comments section was on fire because someone told them that he had awakened C-Rank magnetic field control. The protagonist seriously looked at the comments section where people were worshipping the C-Rank talent person. If the protagonist exposed his crazy SSS-Rank talent, he might get not just flowers and claps, since this world was full of slaughter. The protagonist's eyes became cold. Obviously the SSS-Rank talent ability his strongest trump card, he couldn't afford to reveal it easily. The system announced that they could leave the wooden house and enter the beginner's village, and those who fall will die. The level up method was killing beast, and the system gave them beginner's weapon. The protagonist collected the weapon. This weapon had only 2 attack power, but it could change according to the strength attributes, so the protagonist wanted to try it. Then the protagonist decided to check the attack power of the sword and slashed the weapon on the air, creating an X. The protagonist looked at the sword, which could easily kill a cow, and stated that if the sword can be upgraded, its power will be all unimaginable. But the protagonist had another problem. He didn't know how he was going to upgrade the weapon. The protagonist thought of something and questioned if he could just experiment with his SSS talent ability. The protagonist activated his SSS talent ability Endless Extract on the weapon, and the beginner's weapon shined blue. He swings the beginner's weapon with some little force and it's made a lot of noise, causing the air to split. The system notification showed that he successfully extracted the weapon and its attack power had increased point. The beginner's weapon in the protagonist's hand has now changed from 0 rank to rank 1. He wanted to try using his ability again, so he activated it on the sword and raised it up, preparing to experiment on it. The protagonist was puzzled when the activated ability on the weapon slowly subsided instead of firing up. He was dumbfounded as the system told him that the extract had failed because the target quality was too low. The protagonist stated that if he could extract and upgrade, definitely he was a bug, so it was right for him to also have limit. But at least now the protagonist had hope that he could be able to survive this world of slaughter. He then slashed at the wooden house with a smile, cutting off a chunk of wood from it. The protagonist smiled happily and stated that his weapon was better than everyone else. Suddenly the protagonist heard voices from the other wooden house near his complimenting someone else's ability. The protagonist no longer had an happy smile on his face. Then someone stated that they could go out now. The protagonist walked close to the entrance of the wooden house and pushed the door open because he also wanted to see the outside world. The protagonist walked out from the beginner's wooden house with confidence to see what the slaughter world looked like. A strange bat with 2 heads can be seen flying around the number 911 beginner's village, and other flying creatures could be seen. The system announced that if they didn't reach level 10 then they would be killed, which meant they had to kill monsters. The protagonists looked around after coming out from the beginner's wooden house. Some were crying and panicking. The system had announced that the beginner exam only had 7 days time limits, so they had to find monster to kill or die. A huge portal can be seen inside the beginner's village, and the people around the questions what could be outside it. The people were all scared for their life, so some questioned if there was anyone who was willing to help explore first. The protagonist looked at the portal in the beginner village, thinking that after going out it would definitely be a bloody killing world. But now looking at the beginner's village entrance, the question was who would be the first one to leave. Suddenly the protagonist and the others were attracted by a loud bang from the back. A huge dust floated up. The protagonist and everyone turned back to look at the place vigilantly and questioned if it was a bomb or a ferocious beast. It was none of what they thought of. Instead, it was a bald man standing in the center of the deep land craters holding a stick. This bald man with strong muscles who caused the casualty was none other than Wang Chang, the one with a star limit combat ability. The people surrounded him and started complimenting for being strong, him asking what talent he had awakened. The bald head man was stunned by the people's compliment and suddenly became shy, questioning if they were talking to him. Wang Chang suddenly became courageous and told the people that he was a D-rank talent ability to user called Power Frenzy. The protagonist looked at Wang Chang, who can smash a boulder because of his ability that triple his strength. The protagonist stated that with that kind of attack power, Wang Chang should be ranked in the top 10 in the entire Novik area of their village. Wang Chang became proud and began bragging that he was strong and will definitely become stronger in the future. Bald Head remembered all the sweat and hard work in the past that finally paid off and stated that he would have a good life in this world. The people started gossiping about Lu Xian, who was a C-rank talent ability, and questioned how strong he would be. Listening to what the people were saying, Wang Chang became envious and commented in his mind that what matters is survival. Then he raised his hand up, requesting the attention of everyone, so all eyes and ears turned to the bald head man. He shouted out that he was going to go out to the village and give them a head start and see how strong the beasts outside were. The people started complimenting him even more, calling him the son of a gun and a fearless, powerful warrior. And Wang Chang, with pride because of the compliments from the people, walked into the portal to the outside world. The protagonist looked at the all-brown and no-brain bald head man walking into the portal, not sure of his survival. The bald man outside cursed Lu Xian, the C-rank talent user, stating that when he killed a beast he will show them who the boss was. Suddenly something ran past him and the bald head man was startled, so he stopped and questioned what it was. Then he stood in a fighting stance, stating that something had just passed by him, and questioned if it was a monster. Suddenly a huge beast of about 5 times tall of the bald head man stood at his back looking at him. The bald head man felt that something was behind him, so he trembled and sweat down as he looked behind him. This was a huge rabbit-like monster with red eyes. It slashed at him, and the bald head man, who claimed to be strong, died. Soon the system announced that the bald head man had been killed by a level 1 beast called the blood-tooth rabbit. The system reminded them of the battle levels of each of the beast, and the one that killed the bald headman was a 3-star beast. The people were shocked to find out that the bald headman, who could break a boulder with one punch, was killed just like that. The protagonist immediately knew that the survival in this world was much greater than he had thought. Moreover, in order to prevent people from hiding in the village, the system reminded them that the protection barrier will expire. If the system had given so many hints, it was unlikely to set a test that cannot be completed, so there must be a way to pass it. One of the more courageous youth raised his hand up and shouted that they couldn't wait to die, so fighting was the only option. They decided to form teams so that they could overpower and kill the beasts together in unity as one strength. So each of the people started gathering together and asking for talents and other to form their own team's members. A young man looks at his own team members and told them to draw their weapons and stay on guard. Suddenly a young man walked toward the protagonist, who was holding his weapon vigilantly, and greeted him politely. The young man told the protagonist that he saw the protagonist was alone, so he asked if he wanted to join his team. The protagonist rejected his offer and thanked him, then walked past the young man going towards the portal. Working in team was a good idea, but not for the protagonist, who would have to hide his innate talent before he became strong enough. Then he looked at the portal in front of him. 15 minutes have passed since the first team went in, so it was about time he followed. The protagonist breathes out and walked into the portal because it was time for him to grind some levels. Outside the beginner's village was a huge forest filled with tall trees half as long as a skyscraper. The protagonist was walking inside the forest and looking around at how the outside world looked like. Looking at the huge forest with no sound, the protagonist got the primitive sense from the surroundings. He felt unsafe, as though a dinosaur was going to pounce at him from the bushes at any given time. Suddenly the protagonist smelt a disgusting stench around the area, and then he looks towards the place. What the protagonist saw was none other than the corpse of the dead bald headman Wang Chang. The protagonist stated that although the bald headman died because of recklessness, but it's all because of appearance of the cruel world. The protagonist turned around to leave after seeing the bald headman's corpse, realizing that he could die in this world at any time. Then he thought of something and stopped, although he wanted to get stronger, but it wouldn't be easy. He looked back at the corpse of the dead bald headman and thought that if he used his talent on him, something would happen. The protagonist squats down and touched the chest of the bald headman to try and see if it would actually work. The protagonist activated his talent and started extracting the dead man, and the system announced that it was successful. The protagonist was surprised that it really worked. Now he had gained the power of the bald headman power frenzy. His strength was originally at 8 attributes point, but after using the power frenzy it will bust up to 24 points. The protagonist smirked happily, as now he could instantly have twice the strength of an ordinary adult human. He laughed in his mind, as he was now very sure of the use of his awakened SSS-Rank innate talent. Now with enough time he will be able to possess hundreds of thousands of different innate talents. The protagonist clenched his fist, because now with all the talents he had, he would be able to become the pinnacle of human existence. The protagonist looked at the reckless bald head man, who didn't evaluate the situation and cluelessly went out and died. And that's why for most people cooperation is the only way to compensate for each other's weakness and survive in this deadly world. But that case was not for the protagonist, who was powered with his SSS-Rank innate talent, which he needed to hide till he becomes from strong. The protagonist extracted another weapon, as he thought that with his power endless extraction he will have no weakness. The protagonist continued his journey and saw the corpse of a rank 1 blood-tooth rabbits that killed Wang Chang. Protagonist activated his talent while looking at the injury caused from a backstab after being surrounded by people. The protagonist was surprised when the system told him that he had successfully extracted the rabbit and gained 2 attribute points. The protagonist stood up while thinking that if he encountered similar monsters he would become stronger than the bald headman. The protagonist walks off and saw another monster. He tried extracting it, but the extraction failed. He was informed that monsters under the level of 20 can be extracted once, and he had reached the limit. Then he walked away. Looking at the monster, the protagonist came to a conclusion that the people who killed it were the same and decided to follow their trail. Now he just have to follow the trail with the most footprint and he would definitely find them. Just as the protagonist was following the trail, the system announced that a newbie has been killed by a level 1 giant rodent. The protagonist was puzzled that one person had died and the person killed was someone with a group. Then the protagonist remembered that when he was extracting both the bodies he found he got something from them. Then he came to a conclusion that humans and beasts are different because the beasts don't have innate talent. Since that was the case, he might as well find the killed newbie and get another innate talent, which might be worth more. On top of the tree, the protagonist looked around because he was not sure of where the killed newbie's team may have gone. Accidents are more likely to happen at a path with the least amount of people, so following the route people walked was best. Just as he was still thinking, the system announced that someone else had been killed by the same level 1 vicious beast. Now it seems like the situation the team was facing was dire than he imagined. A small group can't handle this. But the question was, if the protagonist still wanted to go to that place, it would definitely be very dangerous. The protagonist slides down the tree and thought that in this deadly world, if he remained weak, he'll end up as a fish on a plate ready to be served. If one wanted to survive, they'll need to understand the logic of wealth comes from taking risk and facing danger. The protagonist continued walking towards the place the newbies died. Now he was in a large field filled with tall grass. This was a dangerous world where one misstep will lead to death, so the protagonist had to be careful of his every move. Especially the fact that the place he was going to was extremely dangerous, he had to be even more careful. The protagonist walked through the grass field and thought that he had to be extremely cautious. He smelt a blood stench which seems to be getting even stronger. It seems like he was nearing the place he was going to. When the protagonist reached near the place, he quietly opened a space in the tall grass to see what was happening outside. A man named Zhou Chang, who was attacked by the level 1 rodent, was lying dead on the flat ground. Not only him but also the corpse of a female ability user named Liu, who was also killed by the same beast. The protagonist concluded that the giant rodent that killed the two people lying in the ground was very likely to be nearby. The protagonist, who was about to turn back and look around, was shocked at what he saw in front of him and cursed. The protagonist looked from afar at the level 1 giant rodent lying on the field. The combat power of a level 1 beast is 3 stars, so he was currently no match for it under normal circumstance. But fortunately both of the level 1 rodent's legs are broken and it is severely injured. Looking at the level 1 rodent lying on the field, the protagonist stated that killing it will be a lot easier. So he moved up to 1 meter near the rodent and jumped up to attack it while activating his innate talent Power Frenzy. The rodent looked up at the protagonist attacking it and stretched out its claws to capture him. Suddenly the protagonist disappeared from there and appeared at the side of the rodent, and it was startled. The protagonist spoke out that an animal will always be an animal because there is a limit on how smart they can be. He jumped up to the sky and threw his weapon downward towards the level 1 huge rodent, stabbing it on the stomach. He descended down at the body of the level 1 huge rodent and added some force on the weapon on its stomach. The level 1 huge rodent screeched out in pain as the protagonist stabbed its stomach. The protagonist activated the innate talent ability Power Frenzy, increasing his strength by 24 points. Then he slammed hard at the side cheek of the level 1 huge rodent with his fist containing his innate ability. After the killing the rodent, the protagonist sighs and stated that sneaking on a severely damaged rodent could be very dangerous. Suddenly some white mist started coming out from the body of the dead giant rodent. He looked at the body of the dead rodent and questioned what was happening as the white was reflected on his eyes. The white mist entered his body and he found out that it was the power gained from slaying a level 1 beast. The protagonist was stat-led when the status window appeared in front of him. After killing the giant rodent, his level 1 status had changed from 0 by 100 to 30 by 100. The protagonist stated that it was a good start as he dragged out his weapon from the belly of the level 1 rodent. The protagonist stood firmly as he awaited the time when he could defeat any enemies that came his way. Then the protagonist started extracting the innate talent of the rodent and it was successful. His agility has risen and he have gotten stronger, but the point gotten from killing a level 1 wild beast was just too small. He looked at the corpse of the two people on the ground and decided to do what had brought him there. Then he activated his ability Endless Extraction and started extracting the ability of the two dead people on the ground. He successfully obtained an F-rank talent called Enhanced Smelling Sense, which was one of the 6 sensory enhancement. He touched his nose as he stated that the talent may be trash for others, but it was extremely useful for him. While collecting the apron from the body of the dead man, the protagonist stated that the forest was dense and would be hard to find corpse. But now with the talent of Enhanced Smell he could be able to find corpse based on its stench. He lays the apron on the ground as he thought that with the new ability he could be able to smell out beast from far away. The protagonist placed 2 weapons on top of the apron on the ground as he felt like he had gotten the ability at the right time. He activated his ability Endless Extraction and started extracting the impurities from the 2 beginners' weapon. The system announced that he had successfully extracted the rust and residual from the Novik weapon. Now it was a steel sword. The protagonist wrapped the steel swords with the apron, making it the sword sheath, as he came to a conclusion of his thoughts. Now was the time for him to move towards another location, so he hung the sheath with the steel sword on his shoulder. Then the protagonist activated his ability, the enhanced smell, and closed his eyes to smell around him. Some weird force revolved around him as he expanded his sense of smell towards different locations. As he focused, a purple smell floated towards his nose and he smelled something very putrefying. He closed his nose with his hand since the enhanced smell made him want to vomit from all the stench he was smelling. He needed to relax and get used to it so that he could differentiate each of the smells. Then he closed his eyes again. This time he meditates deep into the enhanced smell in order to differentiate each of the smells. Suddenly he smelled a very light fragrance that was sweet, unlike the pungent smells he just smelled. He was confused and exclaimed it was the smell of mud, and he continued meditating deeply. After meditating deeply, he felt like he was in the puddle of flowers. The smell was the smell of flowers. This time after meditating he smelt an airing, disgusting dark matter, but that wasn't the only thing he smelt. He also smelt the scent of a running human being, more literally the boots. The protagonist opened his eyes immediately as he already concluded that something was nearby. At a distance not far from where the protagonist was, a man was being chased by a level 1 huge rodent. The level 1 rodent eyes was shining red as it was extremely angry, chasing after the man. It used some force and smashed the ground where the running man was, so the man was sent flying together with some debris. The leader of the people waiting in ambush near the field shouted out that it was time for them to attack the rodent. So all the people waiting in ambush together rushed towards the rodent and attacked it together. The rodent was startled. They slashed at different places in its body, killing it in one go, so the system announced that they successfully killed the rodent, giving them points. After killing the rodent, they discussed how unlucky they were to be attacked by 2 giant rodents, causing the death of 2 of their teammates. The boss told them to stop discussing and for them to go towards the other side and kill the injured rodent. The protagonist nearby watching them knew that they were talking about the 2 people he extracted their innate talents. But since he had already killed the beast they were going to kill, it was better for him to leave there and not get in trouble. He turned around and activated the ability he got from the dead man, which was speed enhancement. He speeds of leaving them behind because in this world filled with bloodshed, good quality will only cost his life. He wandered around for 3 hours while others were still killing beast in order to figure out the situation in the plain. He found out that there were 5 types of beast in the Novik area and the boar in front of him was what he just extracted. He was dumbfounded when the system told him that he couldn't extract any more longer because he had reached his limit. And except for the highly poisonous 9-ringed snake, he had already extracted other beasts 3 times. The protagonist looked down at the body of a dead young man on the ground as he stated that he has to find a 9-ringed snake to kill. He squatted down and started absorbing the innate talent of the dead young man and the ground. After absorbing another innate talent, his combat power increased to 2-star, and now he had confidence he'll be able to solo a level 1 beast. Suddenly a light purple mist appeared not far away from the protagonist. It flayouted towards him and he noticed it immediately as he looked at it questioning. When he smelled it he was very happy because that was the stench of a 9-ringed venomous snake. He didn't think too much and immediately speed off towards the place he smelt the 9-ringed venomous snake. As he got close, the protagonist could smell something else apart from the snake. It was a kind of flora or fruit scent. And behold, after getting there he saw the venomous 9-ringed snake crawling around a tree. The protagonist hides behind a tree not far from the snake and smells the same fragrance he smelt earlier. Then he saw the flower giving out the fragrance and determined that the snake seems to be guarding the flower. The level 1 9-ringed snake was the strongest beast in the Novik area that could provide a lot of attribute points. The protagonist drew out a steel sword from the sheath in his back as he exclaimed that he had met a good harvest. Just as he has unsheathed his steel sword, the 9-ringed snake became alert because it felt that someone was there. Cold sweat dripped down the protagonist's face as he realized that he had been discovered by the 9-ringed venomous snake. The 9-ringed snake left the tree and rushed towards him with its mouth open wide, ready to swallow the protagonist. The protagonist jumped away from the tree just in time to evade being cut in 2 just like the tree by the 9-ringed snake. He looked at the snake, which was sluggish, and questioned if it had just eaten its prey and was currently digesting it. The protagonist clenched the beginner's weapon on his hand and got ready to attack the 9-ringed venomous snake. He didn't care if the 9-ringed snake was digesting its prey, all he wanted to do was kill it, so he rushed towards it with his sword. Attacking the snake, the protagonist complained that he couldn't slash or cut through the scale of the snake. Just as he was still complaining, the snake raised it tall up and slammed at him, and he couldn't evade in time. Debris flew everywhere and the 9-ringed snake retracted it tall back. The protagonist, who was slammed to the ground, felt the pain and coughed out some dust. The 9-ringed snake took the opportunity to rush towards him, opening its mouth wide to swallow the protagonist. But before it could eat him, the protagonist activated his ability Power Frenzy and stabbed it on the mouth. The 9-ringed snake screeched out as it carried the protagonist, trying to remove the sword from its mouth. It shook continuously, but the protagonist held on it, not giving up on holding the sword. Then the protagonist used the ability Power Frenzy to slash the 9-ringed snake into pieces, ending its life at once. The 9-ringed snake didn't have a chance to react, so it breathes its last breath. Now the protagonist had 40 points in hand. He only needed to kill one more level 1 beast to advance to level 2. Thinking about it now, if it wasn't for the bulging stomach, the protagonist wouldn't be able to kill the snake easily. The protagonist cuts the belly of the 9-ringed snake to see what was inside. After cutting the belly, the protagonist was shocked to find out that it was a human being. In this world of mayhem, anyone and everyone can die. The only difference is how they die, so only the strong will survive. He squatted down and started extracting the innate ability of the dead man on the ground. He obtained another vision enhancement ability, and both were combined and upgraded to an E-rank talent. He got a new talent which was called Eyes of True Sight, and it allows one to see through the nature of things. The protagonist realized that the chance of awakening his skill was high, so he activated the Eyes of True Sight, which was his first skill. He used it to look at the fruit the snake had been protecting and realized that this ability could analyze the details of things. The protagonist picked up the fruit called Red Viper from the plant, which could increase one's physical strength and resist poison. The protagonist ate the fruit while thinking that he won't miss out any good stuff except if he overlooked it. Suddenly he felt a warm energy on his body, and the system informed that he had obtained some points in poison resistance. The protagonist felt like it was a shame the plant didn't have more of the fruit, since it gave more points than killing beasts. Then he activated the Eyes of True Sight to know if there was any other use of the spiritual herb on the ground. This viper herb was grown from absorbing the essence of heaven and earth and would wither after collecting the fruit. The protagonist, who hated wastage, decided to try extracting it since it had absorbed the essence of heaven and earth. He activated his ability Endless Extraction on the viper herb and successfully extracted its essence, so consuming it will give him points. The protagonist knew that a herb that could cultivate the viper fruit could give point equivalent to the one gotten from beasts. The protagonist swallowed essence, and the system announced that he has become a 2-star combat warrior. The protagonist placed his hand on his waist proudly and stated that he could now fight level 1 beast at the same time. The protagonist decided to extract one more 9-ringed snake and then leave the Novik area. The protagonist pointed his sword at a place and stated that he wanted to be stronger, so he will go to a high place and kill some beasts. Suddenly 3 round rocks rolled towards the place he was standing with a fast speed. The protagonist evaded the 3 rocks while questioning if someone was ambushing him. He jumped on top of a tree after evading the rocks to see what was going on. But that was not the case. He thought about this time it was another 9-ringed snake surrounded by some other people. A person can be seen stabbing his sword into the head of the snake, and a bald man was rushing toward the snake to kill it. Another young man shouted at the people attacking the snake, telling them to aim for its vital points. Someone tried aiming for the vital point of the snake while stating that it should go to hell for killing his brother. The protagonist was stunned. He didn't expect to run into this person here again. It was none other than Lei Uad rank awakened with the ability Lightning Control and was among the 17 rank D talent in their village. The 9-ringed snake threw of Leiyu from the top of its head down to the ground. A young lady ran towards Leiyu on the ground, questioning if he was alright. He told her not to worry about him for now and quickly finished the snake. They all raised their weapons up and rushed towards the 9-ring snake to finish it off. The protagonist had never tried using the eyes of true sight on a living being, so he wanted to see what information he would get. He was shocked to find out that the beast could drop items depending on their star rank if he killed it. But he felt like the 1 by 1,000 drop rate was very low, which means he might not even get something after killing a beast. Before the protagonist could think further, a bright light shone on his face and he blocks it with his 2 hands, questioning what was going on. At the other side, the team had already killed the 9-ring snake and got attributes points according to their contributions. One of them threw his weapon on the ground, questioning why he had only gotten 1 point after his contribution. A female with blonde hair told him to stop complaining because the distribution of the points was given based on contribution. The protagonist jumped down from tree he was hiding on as after realizing how attribute points are been distributed. The protagonist's main focus wasn't at the snake but at Leiyu, whose body was glowing. Leiyu was confused as he looked at his glowing body, and one of his teammates questioned what was going on. He answered that it was nothing and he only just leveled up, and his teammates complimented him happily. This was the first time the protagonist was seeing a level 2 human, so he wondered how big of a difference it was from level 1. The protagonist points on Leiyu attribute window and didn't see much of a difference, only barely reached 3 star. If Leiyu was to fight a level 1 beast, he only had 50% chance of winning the fight. But even though the protagonist was not level 2, his strength combined together was that of a 4-star rank. That means the protagonist could easily defeat the level 2 Leiyu with his level 1 power. Since their boss already leveled up, it was time to seek revenge for one of their teammates who died. The person who was with their comrade who died told them that the other had missed a step and fall, resulting to getting swallowed by a snake. The leader walked in the front, telling everyone to follow him, that they will go and avenge their comrade. The protagonist came to a conclusion that the one he saw in the stomach of the snake was their teammate and he already killed the snake. The protagonist shifted a little bit, but the lady at the back took out an arrow and shoots at the place where he was standing, asking who was there. The arrow was embedded into the tree in front of the protagonist and he broke out in sweat. The protagonist looked at the female ability user, who seems to have the innate talent of enhanced hearing. The protagonist came out from behind the tree, raising his hand up, and told them that he was just passing by. The blonde-haired lady was surprised when she saw him and called out his name, Chin Fong. The protagonist questioned if she knew him because he didn't seem to recall anything about the lady. Leiyu questioned if she knew the protagonist and she rejected it immediately, telling him that she saw it on the village chat. The protagonist felt weird because there were thousands of people in the chat room, so he didn't know how she remembered him. The lady blushed and asked why he was in the forest alone, but the protagonist was busy thinking about why they have not left. The blonde-haired lady suggested that the protagonist join their team so that the gap could be filled. The gap between humans and beast are too much, so Leiyu wants to establish a team that will be under him. Leiyu told the protagonist to show him his attribute point and talent, and if he was not weak he could be allowed to join their team. The blonde-haired lady told him to show his attribute points, that he was lucky to be able to join their team, and the others agreed. They were all startled when he told them there was no need for him to join because he likes to do things solo. The protagonist turned around and started leaving, and the blonde-hair girl tried stopping him, but she was stopped by the leader. The blonde-hair girl stated in her mind that she knew the protagonist might have forgotten her, but she wanted him to stay safe. The group walked towards the other side, discussing about the protagonist's rejection, and stated that he was weird. Suddenly all of them stopped because they were shocked on seeing that the snake they wanted to kill had been slaughtered. It was not just killed but cut to pieces, and their teammates who swallowed by the snake was lying in the center. One of them squatted down to examine the blood of the killed 9-ringed snake. He looked up to his leader and told him that it has not been more than 15 minutes since the snake had been killed. The evidence in front of them indicated that it was a one-strike kill, and the footprint showed that only one person had came there. The leader stated that whoever it was must be someone highly skilled and most likely a solo player. When the blonde-haired girl heard what the leader said, she questioned if that person could have been the protagonist. Lei stated that the protagonist fits the criteria, but suddenly the system announced that the top leaderboard had been released. Looking at the protagonist rank the leaderboard, the Lead thought that he might have overthought things just now. The protagonist at the other side was puzzled when he saw that he was only 47th in the Novik leaderboard. After some hours and past 8 people reached level 2 and 1 person level 3, so the protagonist stated it was time to grind level. The system notified everyone that the first 100 people to reach level 10 will receive some amazing rewards. The first person would receive a golden chest, the second a silver chest, and the third a bronze chest. The chests are divided into different grades from iron grade to divine grades. Looking at the chest, the protagonist knew that they will be able to obtain greater reward based on the grade of the chest. So the match for grinding levels had begun, and the protagonist decided to be the first and collect the golden chest. The protagonist rushed off to grind levels by killing beast. He found a beast not long after and started fighting with it using his 2 steel sword. This beast was a silverback wolf and normally also a 4-star mass level 1 savage and bloodthirsty beast. He used his innate talent speed boost and power frenzy to attack the silverback wolf. But the protagonist was pushed back by the silverback wolf, and he knew that it was a tough one to fight even with his talent. The Wolf King was quite intelligent and questioned how the protagonist, a level 1 human, dared to intrude his territory. But the wolf had another problem. Although the protagonist is a level 1, but he was more stronger than a level 3 human. The wolf immediately attacked. Then the protagonist remembered that although wolves had head of steel, but they also have weak points. After thinking of a perfect plan, the protagonist knew that this was his chance to attack the Wolf King. Then he stabbed the silver wolf on the stomach, causing his steel sword to come out from the wolf's back. The silver wolf king was rendered helpless as it stood without any strength on its body. After the protagonist removed his sword from its body, it felt the ground helplessly. The protagonist stated while looking at the wolf that although it was the strongest wild beast he had faced so far, but he was still stronger than it. Then the protagonist raised his steel sword up and ended the life of the Wolf King. The system announced that the protagonist had earned 100 SP and reached level 2, and all his state increased. It was at the time that the protagonist felt the warmth of leveling up, and even his injuries recovered. The system announced that he had successfully slain a silver wolf and obtained an iron grade chest. The protagonist put his hands together and wished to the chase to give him a rank 2 item. Then he started opening it. The chase flew up and a flash of light descended on the protagonist, blinding him. He obtained a grade 2 item called Blood Wolf Battle Sword, made from titanium alloy mixed with the blood essence of the wolf. The protagonist stated that it was good because with the weapon he won't have to fight miserably when facing mutant beasts. Suddenly other wolves gathered around the protagonist ready to attack him. The protagonist already knew that the Silver Wolf King called it companion before it died. He stated that it was just in time to let him test his new Blood Wolf War Sword. Then he slashed one of the wolves into 2 with the Blood Wolf Sword. One of the wolves wanted to sneak attack the protagonist, but he evaded in time. Then he stabbed the wolf with one hand directly at its heart, ending its life. He turned and smirked at the wolves, telling them that they were way too weak to fight him. The protagonist completely killed the whole silver wolves and stood in the center looking at their corpse. After leveling up, he felt his speed and strength getting stronger, and he used less than 1 minute to kill 5 wolves. But the protagonist was annoyed because he hadn't tried probing the secret of the place, but reality told him that this was a real world. The protagonist walked off while thinking that he would have to keep grinding levels to become stronger and survive. As a place different from where the protagonist was a level 1 beast, the Blood Fang Rabbit has just been killed. The person who did it was Leyu, who was now a level 2 warrior. Then his comrades complimented him. Just then the system announced that the protagonist had killed a mutant beast and the team were stunned. Leyu's teammate stated that he could kill a mutant beast, but they had to think twice because of a new notification. A level 1 beast had killed 4 people in a row, and one of them was even a level 2 warrior. Leyu told his teammate it was time to continue hunting ferocious beasts so as not to fall behind. At the other side, the protagonist was sitting in a pile of wolf corpse tiredly and resting. Suddenly an emergency message was seen on the village chat. A team had been wiped out, only one person remained. The person stated that his team was wiped out and if not for his speed talent he would have died too. The protagonist was currently near the place the team asking for help where. He was at southwest side and if he dash with full speed at east direction he can reach there in 5 minutes. Then the protagonist stated that if he killed the boar the strength he'll obtain will be 2 to 3 times more than a normal beast. When the protagonist got there he saw a corpse and determined that the boar was nearby and moreover the air had other smell. The protagonist didn't believe that different ferocious beasts will gather together and questioned if his sense was wrong. Then he extracted the corpse but only got 2 ability points, so he questioned why there was no talent. The protagonist decided to try extracting the corpse again. The extraction failed, but this only happened last time when he reached his limit, so now he asked what the reason was this time. His extract ability was ineffective, but the system was not giving him a hint, so he questioned if it was because he had the talent. The system agreed that it was the reason, but his own talent was higher than the person's. Among the 4 attributes for strength he had a D rank strength and E rank speed, also E rank vision and F rank smell. All 4 attributes have corresponding talents, so he doesn't have a weakness now, but then he saw a dragging trace on the ground. But it was weird, he couldn't think of why the fawn wild boar would drag a person's corpse. The protagonist exclaimed that the fawn boar definitely was not going to eat the corpse. Luyan is a D rank warrior, so if he find his corpse he'll obtain his talent, which means he must find it before the boar eat him. The protagonist looked at the cave in front of him and stated that it might be the fawn wild boar's nest. As he walks closer the dungeon gave him a sense of extreme danger, so he questioned if he was overthinking. Just as he entered the cave a snake longs towards him with its mouth opened wide. Using the eyes of true sight he found out that it was a 9-ringed mutant poisonous red snake with the combat rate of 5-star. The snake was 5-star, so he questioned why the mutant wolf was only 4-star but this snake was 5-star. This was such a huge difference, and the snake had grasped poison spray skill, so he had never encountered such a situation before. The protagonist suddenly cursed because the 10-ringed poisonous snake had sprayed poison all over the cave. When the poison entered the protagonist's eyes he held his face and screamed out in pain while dropping his weapon. His SP started reducing, so all the beasts inside the cave came out and rushed to attack him. The protagonist cursed because he couldn't see clearly, mainly because the poison and harmed his vision. Suddenly a loud boom resounded inside the cave as debris and dust were sent out of the cave. The protagonist was very injured and the snake poison dripped down from his eyes as he cursed. The protagonist stated that even if he couldn't see anything right now he would definitely not die there. So he slashed continuously at the beast of different blood rushing towards him. He slammed the level 1 fawn rabbit to the ground and the rodent escaped. After killing the others the protagonist waited patiently for the main beast to come out. Indeed, as he predicted, the poisonous 10-ringed snake would come at him from his back. The protagonist shouted out that even if he couldn't see he have his innate talent of enhanced smell and hearing, so he shouldn't be underestimated. He shouted out that he wouldn't just sit down and wait to die as he stabbed the 10-ringed snake on the center of its head. Finally the protagonist defeated the 10-ringed poisonous red snake by stabbing hard on its head. The system announced that he had successfully slain the poisonous 10-ringed snake and got a black iron chest as the reward. The system congratulates him for reaching level 3 and also all his states increased by 10 points. The protagonist was still stunned that his eyes healed as he looked at his hand. Suddenly he laughed out, stating he had forgot that once a person levels up that will instantly recover even if they lost their limb. The protagonist didn't notice the chest dropped after killing the level 1 snake, he just saw it now. Opening the chest, he didn't expect such an amazing item to drop from the chest, so this time he had one big. When he looked up he saw that there was a portal not far away from him inside the cave. The aura of the 3 wild beasts that sneaked up on him had disappeared. With his current strength the protagonist didn't have to worry even if the 3 beasts attacked him together. Coming out from the portal he entered an even more huge cave filled with herbs. The cave was filled with level 1 spiritual grass such as the heart meditating grass and meridian grass. Suddenly the protagonist felt a terrifying that weighed him down as he also saw something weird in the cave. There was some wild beast and a corpse-like creature sitting on the pile of bones absorbing the energy of a corpse on the ground. The system warns that he had entered an alternate dimension, so he used the eyes of true sight to see what the corpse-like creature was. It was a 6-star undead, which indicated that the question mark on its state means that its battle power was more than 6-star. And his sense was screaming to him to be wary of the scythe because it gave off an ominous vibe. The protagonist thought that it was best if he leaves the place now and come back to kill the undead when he was strong enough. Before he could leave, he felt an invisible terrifying eyes looking at him and he was shocked. The undead pointed at the protagonist, calling him a lowly level 3 worm from a small world. It stated that since the protagonist was there, he might as well stay and serve as a sacrifice for his rebirth. The protagonist was stunned, but he still evaded the attack coming from the undead and beasts. The chains chasing after the protagonist are one of the skills of the undead man. This time the protagonist didn't know what type of situation he had gotten himself into. Suddenly the chains chasing after him captured him and tied him up so he couldn't move. The undead commented that the bunch of beasts only knew how to bring back human corpse and not living one. He stated that he truly needed to thank the gods for finally bringing a living human into his territory. The protagonist was struggling because he knew that if he didn't break free from the chain, he will definitely die there. He finally succeeded in breaking the chain and the force sent the Fong rodent slamming down to the ground. Then he increased his speed and started attacking the beast back, so the undead questioned how he broke free from his mind domain. The protagonist rushed toward the mastermind of the attack, which was the undead man. Before he could get closer, he was severely attacked by the undead with a secret skill. The undead man stated that the protagonist seems to have underestimated him. He said that no human can resist his mind jail, and since he liked the protagonist's body, he wanted to take over. The protagonist, who was kneeling in the ground injured, laughed gently and mockingly at the undead. The protagonist looked up and stated that he would add all his free attribute point to his energy attributes. The undead told the protagonist that he would tear his soul to shred and burn it in hellfire in the depth of neither world. He ordered the boar to attack him, and so the boar sent the protagonist crashing into a wall few distance away. The undead was surprised and puzzled that the energy of the protagonist had gotten stronger. Fortunately, the protagonist got his storage ring from the black chest, so now was the time to deal with the beast before the undead. He was attacked mentally by the undead, who told him that it doesn't matter if he break free from his mind jail, that he was no match for him. The protagonist looked at the two beasts rushing towards him, but he still needed 2 seconds to break free from the undead control. The undead creature thought that at last it had defeated the protagonist, but was shocked when the two beasts fell down even before reaching the protagonist. The protagonist was happy that his plan worked. It was because when he killed the snake, he took its venom gland. The poison from the snake really came in handy, just as he thought. The protagonist told the undead he had long found out that he couldn't move from where he was and no one was going to protect him. The undead was shocked and shouted that it was impossible unless the protagonist and used some dirty tricks. Before he could speak further, the protagonist slashed it into 2 with his sword. The system announced that he had successfully killed a living dead and gained 210 EXP and 10 judgment points. The protagonist was assigned a skill as a level 1 judge who was tasked to eliminate evil beings that try defying heaven's law. The protagonist was shocked when he received an additional 20 plus points to all his state because of his new acquired skill as a judge. He needed to kill evil being in order to get judgment points. Just then the system announced he had obtained a tier 3 skill. It was a tier 3 taming skill, and once he learned it, he would be able to command an army of beasts to clear mobs for him. He wanted to activate it, but the system told him he hadn't fulfilled with the requirements to activate the skill. He wasn't required to awaken a rank C talent as maximum and D rank talent of strength mental innate as minimum. He wondered if there was any taming pill in the body of the undead, so he searched the undead but found nonsense. He angrily kicked the bag away, stating that the living dead only knows how to have fun. The protagonist sighs as he decided to start with the extraction first. The protagonist extracted the living dead and obtained a D-rank innate talent called Mind Enhancement. And as expected, the undead was a mental type, so he needed to be careful against this kind of mental attack. Then he started fusing the Mind Enhancement skill with another skill, and the fusion was successful, but he still had other requirements. The protagonist thought that regardless of the method it was going to be hard as he slammed his fist on the ground. The system notified that he has successfully harvested the spirit herbs in the cave into his storage ring. Now he could directly control what is within the storage ring and take it out or put it in at will. He also extracted the innate talent of Li Yum, which was related to the flame, and it was successful. The protagonist was happy that he finally obtained an innate talent with some destructive power. And once he gets stronger, he could fight at a long range and no grass will be left unharmed wherever he goes. Sitting and enjoying a meal, the protagonist stated that the chat channel was quite lively. Suddenly, a young man from the forum told the people in the chat room that he had raised his level to 3 and now he had been reclaimed his 9th spot. The people in the forum started gossiping and even included the protagonist, stating they had not seen him since. The protagonist stated that he was not dead as he was just in another dimension, and finally he had a safe place to recover some stamina. The protagonist cuts through the meat he was smoking with a knife and stated that it smelt so good. The protagonist ate the meat and stated that it was not bad and had a tenderness. He suddenly recovered very fast, and the system announced that the protagonist was the first person to discover that cooked food can increase stamina. The people who saw this were surprised that eating cooked meat will allow one to increase their stamina. The problem was that some didn't have fire to cook their food and were asking if any with fire ability could lend to them. The protagonist wondered if he could sell cooked meat, and the system agreed. A young man stated that he was lucky to have a beast corpse, so he would try trading with the protagonist. The trade was successful, and as the first to start it, both Lu Xian and the protagonist obtained 1 prestige point. At another place, Lei Yu team decided to trade with the protagonist since they had a wild beast corpse. The protagonist laughed out happily as he stated that he wouldn't have to look for beast anymore since everyone was working for him. Suddenly, Lu Yuan, a level 3 warrior higher than the protagonist, asked him for some meat, stating that he would remember his favor. The protagonist folds his hands together looking at Lu Yuan's message and questioned who he thought he was to ask him for things arrogantly. Then he held his chin and told everyone that his roasted meat was limited, so first come first serve. The protagonist happily stated that he was such a cunning seller for monopolizing the food market, but he had to think otherwise. Just as he finished speaking, someone else immediately started selling roasted meat with high price. The protagonist was dumbfounded because he just said that he was cunning, but who knew there was someone even cunning than him? He decided to try selling something else, so he put a tier 1 weapon on the channel for 3 vermilion grass or fruit. The people in the chat forum were surprised and questioned where the protagonist got all the tier 1 weapon he was selling. The protagonist managed to exchange for a tier 1 equipment called Strength Bracelet. This bracelet added 7 points to his strength, which was the lowest among his state, and now no one in the Novik village can challenge him. Suddenly a loud bang resounded in the village and the system announced that a village initiated a challenge to the protagonist village. The first person to become level 5 from the village will win the wager, and the village will gain 50 points and a chest. The protagonist was shocked because he felt that the cost of losing the bet was so severe. The system connected the chat channel of the 2 Novik village so they could communicate with each other. Suddenly a person from the village initiating the challenge introduced himself as a noble baron of the blood tribe, and he was level 4. The people complimented him and he told them the 5 they are right since he could solo a level 4 beast, so his village would win. The protagonist was surprised that there was something like the blood tribe in the Blue Star. The system had put everyone from the Dragon Country and Blue Star together, so he questioned what its goal was. It was just a conflict between Novik village of now, so he questioned if it would develop into a conflict between countries or continents. But no matter what, the most important thing is the bet of resources between the 2 largest Novik village. It was a good thing that he had enhanced vision and could see clearly as in the morning in dark places. After the bet on resources began, the system awarded maps of where beasts are most active, which allowed him to travel faster. In a level 4 beast hunting ground, some pretty cat creatures could be seen sitting and resting on the ground and tree. Just then the protagonist slashed the wildcat with lightning speed and bypassed them. A male cat suddenly jumped down from the tree near where the protagonist wanted to pass. The protagonist was surprised but still slashed the cat, ending its life. The cat he just killed was called Golden-Eyed Tiger and had a surprise attack ability. This golden cat jumped out suddenly, but the protagonist was fast enough to evade together with his enhanced smell. This was his first time meeting a half-human beast, so he questioned if beast over level 5 had human characteristics. Suddenly a red invisible energy floated towards the protagonist. The protagonist smelled the familiar scent of spiritual grass and questioned if there was any nearby. The protagonist didn't want to think too much, so he decided to find the spiritual fruit and kill the beast guarding it. Sitting down near the spiritual fruit was a giant bear with human characteristic and had 3 heads. The protagonist stated that he was in trouble because the beast in front of him was a king tier of 12 star. A king tier beast with 60% drop rate won't be easy to defeat, not to mention that it had 3 heads. The protagonist jumped up at the head of the beast to attack it, but the beast was very vigilant. It immediately sent the protagonist flying back a few meters with one punch. The protagonist crashed on a tree, making it break into 2. The protagonist was too careless. He didn't think the bear would be fast, even as huge as it was. The Bear King walked towards the protagonist and called him kid. The first head of the bear told him not to get on his way, and the second one told him it didn't want to waste time on him. Then the third one told him to get lost. 563. The protagonist felt that 3 head talking at once was disgusting, so he told them to get lost so that he will spare them. The Bear King immediately became angry and told the protagonist he will tear him to shreds. Then the Bear King angrily slashed its weapon at the protagonist while the protagonist used his sword to hold the attack. Then the protagonist jumped up, evading the attack, and it's landed on the place where he was standing. The Bear King was startled when the protagonist flew high into the sky and it looked up to see him. The protagonist rushed down and slashed at one of the head of the Bear King. The Bear King immediately became very enraged and slashed at him, almost cutting off the protagonist's head. The other head at the back told his big brother that their third brother just died, and the big brother told him to shut up. The neck of the bear was harder than the protagonist thought, so he only sliced one head off after mustering up his strength. Then the Bear King growled angrily as it went into berserk state, which could last for 10 minutes. The Bear King growls like a dragon, but its power is very weak, so it probably resulted from staying so close to the dragon fruit. The protagonist slashed at the Bear King and found out that the Bear King's defense had increased. He couldn't even scratch it. The Bear King raised its paw to attack the protagonist and he couldn't dodge it because he was in mid-air. The Bear King stated that the protagonist was too arrogant and thought that he could fight a level 6 with just his level 4 power. He told the protagonist he would let him know the price of angering him as it opened its mouth to swallow the protagonist. The protagonist immediately activated his flame ability and added it to his Blood Wolf Blade, increasing the damage by 10%. He slashed it at the Bear King, who couldn't dodge in time as it watched the attack come closer to its neck. The protagonist sighs out in relief because enhancement of the power of flame into the Blood Wolf Blade finally broke a defense. He scratched his hair as he stated that a level 6 king beast was much harder to fight than a regular mutant one. But there was a problem: the system had not announced that he had killed the Bear King yet. That is, unless the Bear King was definitely not dead. The protagonist evades the attack that came from his back and realized that the Bear King was not dead yet. The protagonist activated his ability and cut off the remaining head of the Bear King, and he had successfully killed the Bear King. This reminded the protagonist that the beast of this world will continuously become powerful, so he has to become stronger. He opened the bronze chest that dropped out from the Bear King and got the Bear King's battle armor. His defense increased by 25 along with fire and ice resistant attributes, which shows that the item was a top grade 2. The protagonist extracted the innate talent of the Bear King and found out the reason why it was guarding the dragon fruit. The protagonist looked at the dragon fruit and extracted it into his body. Then he suddenly felt a terrifying aura. Sweat breaks down his face as he grits his teeth to endure the pain. Suddenly a monster appeared. It questioned if it should swallow the protagonist because he was weak or make him into human delicacy. This was a huge dragon and the protagonist was held tightly on its hand just like a small kitten. The dragon questioned if it should crush the protagonist and added force to its hand, and the protagonist screamed out in pain. The protagonist continuously chanted in his mind that he only ate a dragon blood fruit, so this was an hallucination. The protagonist didn't want this hallucinations to have control of him, so he bites down on the hand of the dragon. The dragon screamed out that the protagonist was a cast fool for eating him and told him that it was a real dragon. The protagonist didn't care if it was a real dragon or not. All he knows is that he was definitely going to eat it. The protagonist escaped the hallucination and felt filled up, and he awakened a wisp of dragon blood power. Apparently the people of the Dragon Nation are descendants of real dragons, and only with this much he gained a wisp of true dragon blood. His entire body felt warm after eating the dragon blood fruit, so if he kills just one more beast he'll win the resources betting challenge. A tiger sneaks up from the back of a tree towards the protagonist, who wanted to check the progress of everyone. Lord Edward stated that he was already close to entering level 5 and would bring glory to his village. The other people in his village complimented him, telling him he already left behind the protagonist village in terms of leveling. They were all shocked when the system announced that the protagonist village had won the betting challenge. The people on the protagonist village were all happy that he won the bet and stated that he was a cheat-like existence. A huge mountain suddenly appeared in the protagonist village and some people were scared. This mountain was filled with resources of different kinds with spiritual herbs everywhere, and they were all happy. The attribute points of the losing party was cut in half and taken away, and the vampire Edward became very angry, so the people around him wants to get rid of him. The protagonist thanks the tiger for offering itself up to increase his experience level and giving him a chance to level up. The protagonist made good use of the tiger by extracting its innate talent and got 2 power attribute points. Someone messaged the protagonist telling him he would like to exchange a betting token for a steel sword. A grade 1 weapon for a betting token was something the protagonist couldn't resist accepting. With a resources betting token, the initiative will be on his hands, so he agreed immediately for exchange. After checking the token with the system window, he knew the reason why Gu Ming wanted to sell it to him. Gu Ming thanked the protagonist and he was happy because he had gained a lot of prestige by leading his people to victory. The protagonist told his village people that when everyone recovers the next morning he will start the bet. The protagonist leaned on the tree on his back, stating that he was not thoughtful, nor was it because he was tired and wanted to delay. With his energy, even if he doesn't sleep for 3 days and 3 nights, he won't be tired. His real goal was to first delve into the most dangerous level 10 beast area, then start the next resources bet. Energy earned from low-level beast area a lower, so after clearing up the battlefield there he would go to the level 10 area. But strangely, after entering the level 10 beast area, according to the system map, he couldn't find any. Even if he enabled the smell talent, he couldn't smell any beast, so he questioned if the system malfunctioned. Before the protagonist could think further, the ground under his feet softened and he falls inside. Just now he didn't feel anything strange or out of ordinary, so he cursed because there is no wall around and he couldn't get friction at all. The protagonist continuously fell down the deep hole. But he needed to quickly think of a way to stop himself from falling, or else if he kept falling like this his entire body will definitely shatter. The protagonist appeared inside a deserted village with no sign of a human being. After landing on the ground, he stated that he could sense a strong beast presence that he had never experienced before. The protagonist questioned if this was the real level 10 beast area because there was the smell of corpse that make him want to gag. He touched a statue and realized that it was an illusion and questioned what kind of strange place he was exactly. Looking at the ruins of village around him, he guessed that if his own village followed the Novik task, it would also be like this place. He stated that the heaven was fair and cruel, so once given a chance and failed, you will be banished into the depths mercilessly. Before he could walk further, he was stopped by some creatures who told him this was not a place he was meant to be. One of these creatures stated that they were the sodders that guard the place and breaking into this place meant death. Then all of them together told the protagonist to prepare himself for death. The protagonist used the eyes of true sight on the creatures and found out they were hell sodders and level 15 beast. He had no idea how to leave the strange place, so he wanted to try fighting them also because the reward was great. Now he hoped the grade 4 weapon he got from the white chest can lend him the power and help him kill the monsters. It was time to fight, so the leader of the jackals rushed to attack him with its spear. The protagonist rushed towards the monster with his blood wolf sword. He jumped from one debris to another, then finally landed on the ground, and before he could react, a spear rushed towards him. The protagonist was angry that the jackals looked down on him and sent only one person to fight him. He activated 4 of his ability while stating that he would let them know the consequences of looking down on him. He slammed his weapon at the jackal, but it was fast and blocked it. One of the jackals stated that their big brother seems to be struggling to fight the protagonist. One of them pointed at their big brother and told the one worried that the big brother was playing with the protagonist. He stated that the big brother was purposely falling his pierce and then showing the protagonist openings so as to be attacked. Then let the protagonist think that he has a chance to win against him. Then the next step was for the big brother to crush the protagonist. Just as the protagonist thought that he was going to end the life of the jackal, it instantly disappeared. The jackal stepped on the protagonist's head as it told him that this was the end of the game since it didn't have much time. The big brother jackal raised its spear up to end the life of the protagonist. Before the spear could go down, a sword stabbed the jackal from the back. The other jackals were stunned when the system announced that the protagonist had killed the helldog sodder. The protagonist started extracting the innate talent of the jackal as he told the other that to survive one can't waste any seconds. And that is especially after he obtained mind control talent, which can control dead object. He successfully extracted and obtained 2 talents, that is darkness control and hellfire, together his judge ability upgraded. The protagonist collected the dropped dark seal fragment as he stated that he had trained like hell to learn weapon control. And after over hundreds of thousands practice, he finally grasped a little. The protagonist smirked as he stated that he would use it to kill people with airborne. The jackals were all annoyed that the protagonist was acting arrogant and started fighting for who will kill him. The protagonist felt that something was wrong because he had killed their companion, but they act like nothing happened. He questioned if it was because the monster hadn't died, but disagreed because the system announced it was dead. The jackal appeared at the protagonist back, questioning if he was looking for it. The protagonist was shocked because his guess had came true. The jackal attacked the protagonist with its fire ability, but the protagonist was fast and evaded it. The protagonist moved to the side a few meters away from the place he was standing not too long. The protagonist stood in a fighting stance as he looked at the jackal in front of him. Another jackal told the big brother he was getting less cautious, and the big brother replied that it had been long he saw a human. At the other side, the protagonist was in disbelief. He had thought he defeated the monster. The jackal stated that the eyes of true sight should have told him the reason he didn't die even after receiving notification. The protagonist was shocked to find out that the jackal knew about his eyes of true sight. The other jackals told him that hell dog solder means that they came from hell, which also means that they, the dog solder from hell, can't die. The protagonist spits out some saliva while stating that they were just mere watchdogs and for them not to get cocky. He stated that if he killed it once, then he can kill it multiple more times, even 8 if it passed 4 times. The jackal blocked the protagonist's attack with spear and they fought continuously. Suddenly a statue hen cocktailed and the jackal looked back to find out that it was already dawn. The other jackals told the big brother that time was up as they turned and started entering the portal. He sent the protagonist crashing into a tree with just one swing of his spear. It told the protagonist he was very interesting and hoped to see him next time again as he turned and left. After standing up, the protagonist cursed that he had underestimated the dog-head soldiers. The village appears at night and disappeared at dawn, so if one had the dark seal they have the chance to enter. The protagonist suddenly felt a sense of danger as the morning sun rises. This sense of danger came from the huge centipede at his back, which was very huge. The protagonist smiled and used the eyes of true sight to see the information of the creature, which was a sand centipede. He rushed to attack the centipede and the system announced that the regional conversational channel had been activated. After the resources multiplied, Lu Xian's leveling speed was much faster than the protagonist had expected. After the regional conversational chat was activated, the Region 1 was mocking the protagonist village for slow leveling. Suddenly another Novik village connected the protagonist village to do resource bet, and the first to reach level 8 would win the bet. While at another place the protagonist was busy grinding level and earning lots of EXP. Just after the bet was made, the system announced that the protagonist had reached level 8 first, so his village won the bet. The people in the protagonist village were all surprised that the protagonist won the bet very fast and praised him. At the other village, the leader who started the bet was angry because they had just started the bet but lost and half of their resources gone. He stated that he was going to the area channel to seek help from his alliance since they also hate the people from Dragon Country. In a distance village, someone told the saint that the protagonist from the Dragon Country levels up so quickly like an S-rank talent. Another person from the village stated that the S-rank talent was a gift from God to them and questioned how a small dragon country gets God's liking. Yet in another village, a kid sitting on her grandpa's shoulder told him that Amir Khan got defeated by Dragon Country's people. The old man didn't seem to be surprised that Amir Khan got defeated by the Dragon Country's people. He stated that he also met some Dragon Country's people before and they were undefeatable, so he hoped to see them again. At another village, someone told James that Amir Khan handed them a bet token to use on the protagonist village. James told the person that Amir was scared the protagonist village would surpass him, so he wanted to use them to eliminate the village. In the forum, the Dragon Country's people were praising the protagonist while he was burning of thirst in a desert after killing a beast. The protagonist stated that he hoped he would get a water or ice type ability, if not it would be really hard to stay in the desert. When the chest opened, he obtained a C-rank token which could give out mission with no time limit and a reward of dark gold chest. In completing this mission he could obtain a high-rank dark gold chest, but it wouldn't be an easy mission. And since the C-rank mission doesn't have limit, he decided to activate it and take it slowly. The system congratulated the protagonist village on activating mission channel because he used a mission token for the first time. The mission was to solve the 5-element seal and collect the 5 king's core and use it to solve the protagonist village seal. After removing the seal, the protagonist village can enter a border world. An area 1 beginner village can enter the big world upon completing a mission. The protagonist realized that it was an open map mission and any village that enters the border world can get huge advantage. The system suggested that they hunt ferocious mammoth with a team having 20 level 10 warrior, but gathering such group takes time. The protagonist was near the place the mammoth stays, so he decided to pay a visit and understand the situation there. Squatting down near a rock was the blonde hair girl who wanted the protagonist to join her team. She was comforting herself to stay calm. A mammoth holding a huge axe walked past around looking for the hiding blonde hair girl. The mammoth questioned where the blonde hair girl was and stated that human meat tastes so good. The mammoth suddenly rushed towards the place the blonde hair girl was hiding and stated that it had found her. The mammoth raised its axe up to slaughter the blonde hair girl and she felt terrified. This was a 12-star monster, but before it could kill the girl, a sword stabbed it from the back, penetrating at heart. The protagonist used his enhanced speed ability to move the blonde hair girl from her position. When she saw the protagonist, the blonde hair girl was surprised and called out his name. The protagonist questioned why she had came to a level 10 ferocious beast area alone. The blonde hair girl questioned why the protagonist was there, but in reply the protagonist asked her where teammates were. The blonde-haired girl was terrified when the protagonist asked where her teammates was as she remembered something. She recounted what happened and the protagonist thought in his mind that this was a world where the strong feed on the weak. She held the protagonist's hand and begs him to save her teammates because the mammoth said they would eat them in the evening. The protagonist told her that he would think about saving them after seeing the situation and she asked him to take her with him. But he rejected her, which made her tell him that she could be the bait since the mammoth liked human meat. The protagonist asked if she was not scared and she told him that she wanted to save her teammates but not only relying on the protagonist's strength. She looked at him sweetly as she told him to let her offer her strength. The protagonist smiled happily as a guess that the blonde-haired girl was not totally useless. At the other side, the mammoth's group were playing music with a drum. And two seductive female snake monsters were dancing to the tone happily. At the side, the blonde-haired girl's teammates were tied to a tree as they watched in terror as the monster dance and play music. The male mammoth and the mammoth village were praising the two dancing seductive female snakes. They were all jubilating that they had found human meat to eat that day and sets a big burn fire. One of the mammoth cursed as he felt like the human meat won't reach, leaving them with the bones. He questioned if the comrade who went to chase the girl had came back when suddenly he saw a clothes move near a rock. He asked his comrade what the reward for catching a human was and he was told he would receive an extra human leg when eating. He held his rock-like weapon as he stated that today seems to be his lucky day. But things didn't work out for them since they were the ones who fell into the trap and died. The blonde-haired girl stated that she only needed to bait the monster but she earned an extra experience points. The protagonist didn't think much about it and told her to close her eyes instead. He started extracting the talent of the mammoth and gained physique strength, which evolved to physique frenzy. After extracting the innate talent of the mammoth, the protagonist told the blonde-haired girl to open her eyes. He then gave her the protective ring that just spawned from the mammoth because when attacked it can form a defense dome around her. After receiving the ring from the protagonist, the blonde-haired girl started thinking of something else. He told her not to get him wrong, he just gave it to her because he didn't want her to die, it would be troublesome for him, so she thanked him. The protagonist started moving forward and she followed behind him as she thought that he hasn't changed but was still soft-heart like before. After meeting another mammoth, the protagonist was glad that the effect of the 10-ring snake poison worked on level 12 monsters. His Hellfire ability not only easily breaks the raging mammoth's defense but also kills it. And the raging mammoth weak point is on the back of its neck. As long as its movements are restricted, even a level 4 human can kill it. Suddenly they heard a loud growl from behind them and turned back to see what was going on. There were a group of mammoth rushing towards both of them and cursing the protagonist for ambushing them. The protagonist was glad and stated that it was very good, at least he had test subjects to use and practice his new skill. All the mammoths shouted out to kill the protagonist as they pointed their weapons towards him. But when rushing towards the protagonist, they fell into his trap and were angry. One of the mammoths screamed out as a spike grew out from the ground and stabbed it on the head, and the other mammoth defended himself. The protagonist already predicted that there will be a group of mammoths coming for their missing comrade and then follow trail to where he set the trap. The protagonist stated that to easily cut through sand centipede spikes that are comparable to grade 2 weapons, the mammoth are indeed strong. One of the mammoth escaped the trap and that was the mammoth guardian, then it rushed towards the protagonist with its axe. This mammoth guardian had the combat ability of 21 star with 12% spawn rate. The mammoth guardian attacked the protagonist with its axe and the protagonist blocked the attack with his sword. The guardian's strength is twice as much as the raging mammoth and he felt numb after crossing blade with it just once. Its hide is also harder but not to the point where it is unbreakable. The mammoth guardian cursed the protagonist because he had injured it back. Suddenly the wound healed at a visible rate as the mammoth told the protagonist that he received this blessing from his king. The protagonist became happy because this was a self-regeneration ability and if he could extract it he would heal his wound without medicine. The protagonist told the mammoth guardian that it was very impressive and very practical, but he had a question for him. The protagonist rushed towards the mammoth guardian and asked him if the regeneration ability had a limit. Then the protagonist slashed continuously at different parts in the mammoth guardian body. After some while, the protagonist realized that the power and speed of the mammoth attack had decreased. He saw that the regeneration rate of the small wounds was very fast and there is no point in counting them. The healing period ranged from 5 seconds originally, but now it needs 15 seconds to heal a wound. Then the protagonist called the mammoth guardian and questioned if his regeneration ability had reached its limit. Then he activated the Hellfire ability while telling the elephant that his king wasn't blessing him anymore. He sent the Hellfire attack towards the elephant and it raised it and up to block the attack. Then he clotted his sword with Hellfire ability and rushed towards the mammoth while stating that it was time to end the fight. With one slash, the mammoth guardian head was instantly separated from its body. At a place not far from where the protagonist was, the king mammoth instantly opened its eyes widely. The priest elephant near the king mammoth questioned what was wrong. Then, without changing its voice, the king mammoth calmly told the priest that a loyal guard had been killed. At the other side, the blonde-haired girl continuously called the protagonist's name, but he wasn't listening to her. Right then, protagonist was seriously extracting the elephant's innate talent, gaining some ability. Then he angrily punched the air near the place the elephant was, sending debris flying everywhere. The blonde-haired girl looked at the protagonist, whose mode suddenly started getting bad a few moments ago. The reason was that after extracting other abilities he could extract the regeneration ability no matter what. He was very confused. He obviously saw the mammoth guardian healing itself in front of him. Then an idea came into his mind: since he couldn't extract it from the minion, then he could just find the king. After moving close to where the mammoth village was, both of them hid behind a rock and the blonde-haired girl looked around. Two huge mammoths were speaking with each other using a language that she couldn't understand. She turned and told the protagonist that they were at least 30 elephants ahead, and even if he was strong he will still get hurt. Then she told him that they should just quietly rescue her team, then use the portal to go back to the village. The protagonist put his sword into his space ring and told her that he was sorry to disappoint her. Then he told her to look over at the place where some mammoths were burning fire. And then at the place where her teammates were tied with only 2 guards protecting them. Although the situation right now seems beneficial for them, but he questioned if she had thought it would be a trap or not. A small group of mammoth was after them because the herd sensed that 8 of their companions were missing. If this squad also goes missing, the king of mammoth will definitely be suspicious. They'll put her team where security was loose and then pretend like they were enjoying themselves. The protagonist concluded that this was all an act, but to new them out. The blonde-haired girl didn't want to believe this because she felt like the knowledge of animals shouldn't reach this extent. The protagonist told her that the higher leveled the beast was, the higher at IQ, and if she underestimates it she will lose her life sooner or later. He stood up and told her that things were going to be messy and told her to stay here, but she wanted to stop him. He told her that this trap was made just for him, so it would be a waste if he didn't go. The blonde-haired girl watched as the protagonist walked out from the hiding place and walked towards the beast. The protagonist looked at the mammoths who were pretending to be enjoying themselves. Once he appeared, they all turned to look at him, which shows that they were expecting his show up. They all glared at him, waiting for the order from the king so that they could devour him. All the mammoth made way for the protagonist as he walked through towards the king. He counted the total amount of mammoths there and it amounts to 70. When he heard them gossiping about him, he turned to look at them with a penetrating cold eyes. They all broke into cold sweat as they felt that the aura around the protagonist was strong. The mammoth king, enjoying himself on top of his throne, stated that the protagonist finally came. The protagonist stated that this was the famous king of mammoth, very fierce and eyes-opening, but in his heart he thought differently. The king was a level 12 beast with 21 stars, laughed out and stated that humans sure know how to talk to sweet. But however, since the protagonist killed 14 of its citizens, his clan felt insulted, so he questioned how to deal with him. The protagonist knew that this was a setup to lure him out and didn't think that the solution would be easy as just killing him. The king stated that he was indeed useful than all the trash that he had killed, but the priest tried to stop him. He raised his hand in motions for the priest to stop talking, and he told the protagonist that he admired him. He pointed at the protagonist and invited him to join his clan. The protagonist was startled. He didn't expect the Mammoth King to make such a decision. He told the protagonist that he would forget his crime and make him a guardian, giving him other materials too. The protagonist told him that before he make a decision he had a question for him, and the king told him to ask. The protagonist questioned if it was true that all the people from the alternate world could destroy a world with one hand. The king didn't know what the alternate world was, so he asked the priest if he knew about it. The priest apologized to the king and told him that he knew nothing about that and stated that it might just be a rumor. One of the snake laughed mockingly, and the king told the protagonist that there was nothing like the alternate world, only the grassland. The king could neither detect the eyes of true sight or aware of the other worlds. It was quite disappointing because the protagonist thought the king knew more, but it seems like he was stuck on his own world. Then he brought out his sword from his space ring and clotted it his innate ability. The Mammoth King questioned if it was his decision to fight him. The protagonist stated that if he was to submit and serve the mammoth he would be betraying mankind and will become a traitor. Then he pointed at the Mammoth King and stated that it was unless he win against him. The Mammoth King seemed calm, but he was already annoyed as he activated his ability ready to fight. At a different village a man in armor stood straight and was attracted by a call from the status window. The person calling was Amir Khan, the leader from number 446 village. Mr. Miyamoto questioned if there was any emergency. Then he told Mr. Miyamoto that the protagonist leveled up too fast. Another force were starting to befriend him, but he wanted to get rid of him before he entered the ranking list. Khan told Mr. Miyamoto that he believed in his ability, then cut the call. Then Miyamoto stated that this was the fifth person force calling him. One of his comrade told him that number 446 village had no good intention and to be careful, they only wanted to use him. He stated that it doesn't matter what they want as he broke a betting token connecting with the protagonist village. The system announced that the betting match had begun and the first to win will be the victor. The protagonist was fighting the Mammoth King as he exclaimed that he had such a strong armor. The protagonist cursed and stated that if he couldn't injure him then he can't detect if he had healing ability or not. The Mammoth King was using two axes to fight with the protagonist and sent an attack towards him. The protagonist used his ability physical barrier to block the attack, although it was hard. But before he could think further, the Mammoth King attacked him, sending him flying and smashing into a small mountain. The barrier he extracted from the mammoth was not enough to defend against the king's attack. The Mammoth King told him that he had potential and he would give him one last chance to rethink his choice. The protagonist cursed as he stabilized himself with his sword and was glad that he had a backup plan. The protagonist raised his hand up and told the king that if he wanted him to join that he will do so, but only if he leave. Then he'll become the king, and suddenly earth spikes surrounded the Mammoth King. The Mammoth King was angry and called the protagonist an ungrateful pieces of shit while cutting the spikes. He told the protagonist to get ready to die as he activated his ability Earth. Suddenly the protagonist started shrinking into the ground. Then he realized that he was in a sand drift and tried to stabilize himself. The protagonist wanted to break free, but he couldn't as the Mammoth King used the drift sand to hold him down. He trembled as he stated that the Mammoth King's skill was really annoying. Then the protagonist shouted out the name of one of his ability, Telekinesis Solidification. The protagonist felt that this ability was so slow because he almost got sucked into the ground. Just as he was still dwelling on the fact that he almost died, the Mammoth King threw one of his axes towards him. The protagonist saw it coming, then jumped up and activated his ability. He sent a multiple fire attack towards the Mammoth King from the air. The Mammoth King was pushed back a little bit by the protagonist attack. Then the protagonist commanded the Hellfire-imbued spikes to hit the Mammoth King. Before he could say any more word, the Mammoth King used his Earth ability to hit the protagonist on the stomach. The protagonist cursed and used his sword to stabilize himself. The protagonist was surprised when the Mammoth King questioned what move he had made on him because it scratched him. The protagonist stated that since it scratched him he will do it again and again, and then activated his Hellfire ability. He sent a large amount of Hellfire ability towards the Mammoth King. The Mammoth King stood firmly and used both his hands to block the attack. But the Mammoth King was shocked that even when he blocked the attack he still got injured in his hand. The protagonist finally broke through his defense, but it seems like the king's regeneration rates was slower than the Mammoth Guardian. Maybe it was because he used the Hellfire, but at this time the Mammoth King went by berserk. A huge earth hand was created by the Mammoth King and attacked the protagonist. Just as the attack was landing on the protagonist, the Mammoth King rushed towards him. The protagonist put his sword into his space ring and held back the earth hand from crushing him with his hands. The protagonist was struggling hard to hold back the earth hand and wanted to activate his ability Sand Solidification. But the system announced that his stamina points was too low to activate the ability and the protagonist was stunned. The Mammoth King walked towards the protagonist and told him that he admired him, but he seems to have made a mistake because of his kindness. The protagonist was very weak now, so he let go off the earth hand because the Hellfire ability had drained all his stamina points. Then the Mammoth King started attacking the protagonist, telling him that he will make his experience filled with real pain. At the other side, the girl watched as the Mammoth King pummeled the protagonist and questioned what she needed to do. She sat down depressingly and questioned what she needed to do and kept blaming herself for what was happening to the protagonist. Then suddenly a thought came to her mind. She remembered what the protagonist told her before, to always stay calm. Then she remembered that he told her that if she can't calm down then death is the only ending waiting for her. She remembered that he told her that when battling her states could decrease, but she could eat spirit herbs to recover. In an emergency, eating spirit herbs or spirit fruits can instantly restore her states. But the drawback is that spirit herbs and spirit fruits must be consumed as soon as possible after being picked. Then she sent a message to the village channel telling them that the protagonist needed help and for anyone to send spirit fruit or herb. When they learned that the protagonist was in trouble, they started sending spirit fruits and herbs to him. The Mammoth King was surprised and questioned why there were spirit fruit and herbs around him. The protagonist pulled one of the fruit and started eating while ignoring the Mammoth King question. Then little by little the protagonist started regaining his power, stamina and agility points. Instead of answering the Mammoth King's question, the protagonist exploded with power. The protagonist walks toward the Mammoth King and questioned if he asked what he was doing. The protagonist looked at the Mammoth King with penetrating cold eyes and jumped up to attack it. The protagonist appeared in front of the Mammoth King and stabbed him, telling it that he was obviously killing him. The protagonist told him that it was his bad because he just missed killing him and placed a hand on the mammoth's stomach. The Mammoth King wanted to question how a mere human could be so terrifying. But the protagonist activated his Hellfire ability and penetrated the Mammoth King's heart. The protagonist stated that originally he wanted to cut the mammoth head off with one slice. All the other mammoth around together with the priest were shocked that the king was dead. Suddenly something came out from the Mammoth King's penetrated heart. The system announced that the protagonist have gained Earth Element King Core, which was part of the C-Rank mission. The system announced that the protagonist had successfully killed a level 12 Mammoth King and leveled up, also winning the recourse's bet. The mammoths realized that their king was dead and they all raised their weapons up, shouting to avenge their king. Because they were lots and surrounded the protagonist, suddenly the land started shaking and he fell to the ground. The protagonist told them not to think they can defeat him because they multiplied by numbers and requested that the system allocates his points. The system announced continuously that the protagonist had killed some raging mammoth and earned some point. The protagonist jumped up while exclaiming that growing more powerful was such a great feeling. The protagonist shouted at the mammoth to come at him so that they could continue the fight. He killed another mammoth, and the system announced that he had killed a level 12 mammoth and gained 610 energy points. The mammoth priest was speechless as it pointed at the protagonist who was killing his clan member. He told his subordinate to hide behind his brethren and ambush the protagonist when he kills his way over there. The mammoth priest laughed at the protagonist and told him that he could not fend off so many mammoths warrior by himself. They all jumped at the protagonist and he used Hellfire ability to burn them all at once. Protagonist felt like it was a nuisance for the mammoth shaman to command the mammoth herd. He stated that he will finish the mammoth shaman first as he rushed towards his direction. The mammoth shaman was startled when the protagonist rushed towards him. When he realized that the protagonist was going to kill him, he summoned another mammoth to block the attack for him. The protagonist looked at the mammoth that came out to block and questioned if the shaman also have a beast-controlling ability. The mammoth shaman started trembling when it saw that the protagonist had killed the one blocking him. He pointed at the protagonist and called all the other clan mammoth to attack him. The protagonist turns back to look at the mammoth ordered to attack him, then the mammoth shaman used that opportunity to run. When he turned back, he was shocked that the mammoth's shaman was running away. Then he threw his sword, which somersaulted and stabbed the center of the mammoth shaman head. The system announced that he had killed the mammoth shaman and he received a spawned bronze treasure chest. Looking at the mammoths rushing towards him, the protagonist stated that they were not smart. He stated that he will finish the fight with one blow and used his ability Power Frenzy to hit the ground. This caused sparks to fly and increased the intensity of the hellfire flame, burning all the mammoths. The system continuously told the protagonists that he has successfully haunted level 12 raging mammoths and gained 610 energy points for each. The blonde hair girl and her teammates by the side watched the show amazingly with a shocked face. Altogether, they had only one word in mind, and that was the fact that the protagonist was a demon. After the rescue, the blonde-haired girl teammates gave the protagonist some gift and told him to accept it as they bowed respectfully at him. They told him that he saved them, but they didn't have anything good, so he should accept this herbs and fruit as a token of appreciation. The trio all looked at the protagonist expectantly, waiting for him to accept the gift. The protagonist looked at the herbs and fruits in their hand and stated that they were of low grades, so they became sad. But in order not to make them feel bad, the protagonist told them that the spirit fruits were all not bad. As the protagonist stretched his hand to collect the gifts, a little chick popped up and cock-doodled. The protagonist immediately jerked his hand back as all of them fell silent, looking at the chick awkwardly. The leader apologized to the protagonist, telling him the useless chick spawned randomly and he forgot to throw it away. The protagonist held his chin as he thought that this was very interesting. This was a super screeching chicken with no level and combat ability power, but the protagonist put it into his ring. The protagonist turned around and left while telling them that he will accept the chicken and for them to leave quickly because this was a level 10 beast area. The other side, the team was happy that the protagonist was worried about them and they felt touched, saying that he was a good guy. The blonde-haired girl stated that although the time they met was short, but she knew he was someone destined to become the strongest. The place he'll be heading towards in the future is somewhere a normal person like her can't catch up to. But that was okay, she'll be like hundreds of thousands of other people looking up to him. The protagonist looked down coldly at the two female snakes on the ground and questioned what he would do with them. The two female snakes trembled in front of the protagonist in fear. The two begged the protagonist to let them go and told him that there were just two dancers and have never harmed humans. After looking up the information of the two, the protagonist saw that their combat ability was 0 and they were unexpectedly weak. But he has been bothered by the flower on the head of one of the snakes since earlier. After extracting it, he saw that it was really a plant from Earth. He told them to answer his question and he would let them go. Tears almost dripped down their eyes as they nods their head at the protagonist. And after answering the protagonist question, the two snakes were left to go. No matter how he thinks about it, he doesn't think that weird talents like seductive and dance and waist flexibility was necessary for extracting. It will be a total disaster if he had a snake body on his waist. He definitely rejects it. He will first turn in the 5 Elements mission, and after he organizes the reward he got from the battle, he will head toward the next mission location. The protagonist saw some people from the village that lost in the bet resources slandering him. The protagonist immediately became very annoyed because the village that lost the bet challenge was slandering him. Since they won't admit defeat until it's served to them firsthand, he'll make them remember. The protagonist activated the resource bet, which could only be activated by the strongest person in a village. The system informed him that each beginner village has only one token and each area only has 100-time use chance. The protagonist was surprised that the resource bet token still had an amount restriction. The protagonist stated that this would make the brave one full and the coward ones go hungry. Just like the people he defeated, the trio were brave ones who dared to take the risk and activate the bet even though they failed. Luckily he used it on time or he would have missed a big opportunity. The protagonist was wondering how he could face 20 villages at once when the system showed him that he had two options to make a bet. He stated that this time he must give them a teaching which they will never forget for life, as he chose the camp option. The camp was successfully activated and notification was shown that the protagonist had activated a resource bet, which was a camp bet for the first time. The bet method was killing ferocious beasts alone to obtain points, and doing so in a team won't obtain points. Also the camp which accumulates 1000 points first would win. Killing level 5 ferocious beasts gives 1 point and killing level 6 gives 2 points, and lastly killing level 7 gives 3 points. The people of Dragon Country were happy that the protagonist supported them, but one of them stated that if they failed the bet they'll die. They hugged their scared comrade and told him that the protagonist definitely won't lose because he had a plan. But they were all shocked and terrified when they found out that that bet was 3 against 24 villages. In Sir Miyamoto village, his subordinate was telling him the total number of people with different levels. The subordinate told him that among the people he mentioned, some of their power was weakened because of the former resource bet, and Miyamoto blamed the protagonist. Sir Miyamoto stated that it was time for them to make the protagonist pay for what he did. Then he turned and told his supporter that if he failed he would commit suicide because he is the one whom he trusts. The system announced that the bet will officially start in 10 minutes while the protagonist was equipping all the materials he got. All the things the protagonist got when he fought with the mammoth's village was equipped into his body as both offense and defense. The system announced to the protagonist that a silver chest had opened and he obtained a rank 4 item called Fire Spirit Liquid. The protagonist absorbed the Fire Spirit Liquid and his fire attributes resistance increased to 100%, evolving his fire talent to C rank. After changing his equipment, his combat ability had increased quite a lot. The protagonist was surprised that his combat ability had reached 28 star. This was great because now he could go to the next king rank beast area. Since the protagonist has obtained the king core of sand, the system suggested to leave the grassland and head towards the ant nest and get the queen's core. The system stated that he needed more level 10 members, so he questioned if the metal queen ant was much stronger than the mammoth king. Then the system set a countdown for the protagonist, and he thought that if it was true he would need to make some preparations. Then the protagonist thought of something, which was poison. It was one of the greatest balances in the history of human. A weak girl can seduce and kill a strong and muscular man. With poison, one person can kill a group of enemies alone. Some claim poison to be a weakling's weapon, while some thinks that anything which can defeat the enemy is a useful weapon. Ricin is one of the top 10 poison, which is extracted from castor beans and 6,000 times toxic than arsenic, and less than 1 milligram can also cause death. The most famous ricin assassination occurred in 1978. An international spy used an umbrella tip loaded with ricin to quietly and successfully stab in public. When the protagonist saw the Niga's hemp seed, he thought of a plan. The protagonist used his extraction ability to start extracting poison from all over the plants. The poison he extracted was enough to kill 300 ferocious beasts, and now he wanted to try mixing it with snake venom and ricin to make something interesting. The protagonist joins the poisons together, making a product without name, but it was still poisonous. The protagonist looked at the word poisonous on the system window and wished that there was a ferocious beast which he could try it on. His eyes caught sight of a ferocious beast which was passing by, and it was a level 10 beast. The kitten was frightened when the protagonist acted like a pervert and rushed towards him. After some seconds, the kitten was lying in the ground dead without any breath left on it. The protagonist was happy that one drop instantly killed a level 10 ferocious beast and exclaimed that he was genius. He steps on the dead kitten and stated that he would create more poison first before heading to the ant gathering in the mountain and kill them all. The protagonist reached a place where he saw iron ore that can be used to build the beginner's village. The protagonist stated that it was a good item and decided to keep them first as he collected them into his space ring. Just as the protagonist was putting the ore into his space ring, he felt something moving behind him and looked back. It was a huge metallic ant and carrying metal ore on its back. Not only one but hundreds of them were roaming around the trees with holes carrying ores. Suddenly another ant clamped onto a metal ore, carried it onto its back and followed it comrades. The system showed that this was the Devour Metalworker ant, which was level 12 and had the combat ability of 16 star. It was fearless and can devour iron. One of the metal ants looked back to look for its comrades but couldn't find them. It turned away and started running when it felt an attack in its back. Then it was startled when a stone fell in front of it and questioned what was going on. Suddenly more than one metal white that looks like spikes rushed towards it and was stabbed in the head. After extracting the ability of sense metal and controlling the earth attributes, his attack power got much stronger, but it was also consuming more energy. Although the metal ants aren't smart, they have the specialty of an undying will. The protagonist stated that if he didn't pierce through their brain, they will continue to come at him even if they are in pieces or cut in half. It was quite troublesome and maybe it would be much better use poison, but the giant ants are scattered everywhere, so he couldn't handle that much with his current strength. He needed to think of a way to gather all of the ants in one place. That is why he wanted to use the head of the ant he killed as bait. He threw the head of the ant directly at the other ones down the mountain and shouted at them to come at him. The head fell down at the center of the group of ants and they were stunned. When they realized what it was, they all started screeching loudly. The protagonist smiled and stated that he didn't understand what they were saying, but their screeching was giving him goosebumps. But his plan really worked because all the ants rushed towards him. The protagonist told them to come and have a test of his freshly made poison. The protagonist told the ant to take the poison he threw towards them. The poison scattered before it could reach them and spread on their bodies. Then all the ants touched by the poison started falling down from climbing the mountain. The ones down watched, or the ones climbing the mountain started falling down on top of them. The system announced that he had successfully killed a level 12 metalworking ant and gained 620 EXP. The protagonist stated that all the giant ants are points and XP for him to win the bet. He was startled when the system suddenly appeared and told him that he had already reached 300 points based on his bet rules. The protagonist told the system not to bother him because he already knew, and if there was a reward he will do anything to get it. The system told the protagonist that if his village won he will receive an additional prize. A huge leg suddenly appeared, then the protagonist questioned what it was. When it came off, the protagonist assessed it with the eyes of true sight, and it was a commander-level ant. The protagonist looked at the ant commander that was walking towards the other ant. If the poison doesn't get into the giant ant eyes, then it would be useless. Then the protagonist used the metal spikes to attack the ant crawling on the wall. This spikes killed a lot of ants climbing up the mountain. After seeing the end of their comrade, all the ants separated from each other and started climbing the mountain. They are scattering themselves to avoid his piercing attack, but that was naive because at close range his shooting accuracy is 100%. The protagonist was surprised when a rock was sent flying towards him. He shifted from there immediately and the rock fell and dented the place the protagonist had been standing. The protagonist attacked the ants and he stated that it was expected of a higher level ferocious beast. The commander ant ordered the other giant ants to close their eyes to avoid poison, which makes it difficult for him scatter their movement. And on the top of that, this ant are even throwing stones at him from different direction in order to distract him. The situation was not looking good since attacking from a long range has become less efficient and it was time to switch gears into melee mode. But he found out that he couldn't move from his position because an ant was holding onto one of his legs. The protagonist looked down at the huge ant holding his leg, which he didn't even know when it crawled near him. Now the protagonist realized that even the ants climbing onto the mountain was used to distract him. When the protagonist turned back, he realized that some ants were crawling from the back towards him. The protagonist stated that with his equipment, since the ants were incapable, he will be their worst nightmare. Suddenly all the ants started crowding and surrounding the protagonist. This was the order given by the ant commander through screeching loudly at them. The ants started holding the protagonist down and he tried to slash his way out. The protagonist was annoyed by the team attack from the ants and questioned what was wrong with them. They were literally trying to bury him under them and suffocate him to death. Then the protagonist activated the hellfire flame, using it to scatter the ants away from him. The ant commander was puzzled when all the ants under its command were thrown down and scattered around. The system continuously informed that the protagonist had gained EXP because he killed the whole ant that was holding him down. The protagonist told the ant commander to look at him, telling it that this was his killer move. Then the protagonist jumped up and sent a huge amount of hellfire flame towards the ant's commander. This one attack made a huge hole on the belly of the ant commander. Then the system announced that he had killed a mutant ant, which increased his fame and point. But the problem was that there was such a huge commotion outside of the nest, but he had not seen any ant coming out. The protagonists walked towards the cave as he questioned why the ant queen had not come out. Inside the cave was filled with mist vapor and nothing could be seen from outside. Suddenly a yellow eye appeared in the dark mist, making it look different. Then after the eyes appeared a big ant jumping out from the cave and attacking the protagonist. The protagonist didn't even spare it time and used the metal spikes to kill it at once. The protagonist's personal points were now 800, coupled with the points from other villages. They will soon reach the 1000 point to win the resource bet. Now he wants to check if there were any leftover ants there that could harvest some points for him. After looking at all the ants lying on the ground with the eyes of true sight, he realized that they were all dead. Inside the cave the air was humid and the ground was mushy and it smells like chocolate. The protagonist once read in a book that ants secrete an alarm pheromone from the glands when they are in danger. It also gives off a chocolate-like scent to inform the rest of the colony. Along the way the cave was empty with no ants rushing towards him. The protagonist smiled and stated that it seems like the ants were prepared to welcome him. Finally the protagonist came into the main cave of the ants. The ant queen could be seen lying on the center of some rocks as the other ant gathered around her. She moaned profusely as though something was coming out from her. Something was indeed coming out from the ant queen. She was laying an egg. After laying the egg, one of the elderly ant will collect it and give it to another ant, then it would be transported. The protagonist was shocked by this scene because as the eggs are kept, new ants came out from them and started feeding on metal ores. The protagonist was stunned by the information he saw about the ant queen. Even the mammoth king won't dare to face her head on. An ant from the back that wanted to attack the protagonist couldn't break his defense. The protagonist immediately slashed it into two with the sword from his space ring. He felt like it was a very close call to death, and if he had, it should have been his end. Before he could think further, a sound wave attacked him and shook the cave. The ant queen continuously sent out sound waves which she was using to summon her children. Suddenly the cave, which was just empty in no less than few minutes, became filled with ants. The metal ores on the ground started melting at a speed visible to the eyes. The ant queen used the mineral deposits here to cover all giants with black metal armor, which showed that she was not as dumb as she looks. She attracted a large amount of iron from the ore deposits and covered the giant ants with black armor, which showed that she was clever. Then the queen pointed at the protagonist and told her army of ants to attack him. The protagonist slashed at the ants rushing towards him as he stated that he had slain hundreds of their kind outside the cave. And no matter how many of them came to attack him in front of his power, they were nothing. Instead, the ants served as points for him to level up. One of the ants held the protagonist's hand with its mouth and he told it to have a test of one of his special drinks. The protagonist caught his sword with the poison he created and slashed at the ants with it. The Ant Queen watches as the protagonist slashed open the armor she created for her children, and none of them stood up after being slashed. The protagonist seems to be enjoying the killing spree of the ants as he smiled. The Ant Queen felt shocked and thought that this was impossible. The protagonist stated that now that the small fries were out of the way, it was time to make a move at the finale boss. The protagonist jumps up towards the Ant Queen, activating his Hellfire ability, and stated that she should accept her fate. The Ant Queen watched as the protagonist rushed towards her, then she spits out something from her mouth. This was a liquid matter and she sent it flying towards the protagonist. The protagonist couldn't dodge it, so he accepted it head-on. The attack didn't have much force, so the protagonist questioned if it was just a bluff. Looking down at his hand after stabilizing himself, he saw smoke coming out from it. That liquid matter was a highly corrosive anthranilic acid. It even corroded the strongest of his defense, and he guessed that it was the Ant Queen trump card. The protagonist activated his Hellfire ability, ready to fire it at the Ant Queen. The protagonist stood at the front of the cave ready to fire at the Ant Queen, and she was also prepared to attack him. Both the Queen and the protagonist fired their attacks at the same time. The golden attack and the blue attack jammed themselves in mid-air. Then the attack turned into a great force and exploded inside the cave, sending the small ants flying everywhere. The Ant Queen smiled happily as she thought that she already won the fight. But that was her wishful thinking, as the protagonist jumped out from the dust and stated that now was the time to finish her. The protagonist slashed his sword at her chest and told her to do the honor and die for him. Then the protagonist landed firmly on the ground, and as for the Ant Queen, she was killed. The Ant Queen raised her hands towards the protagonist for an unknown reason, and he just looked at her casually. He looked at her with a penetrating cold eyes and told her to burn in hell with her people. The ant screen seems to want to say something as she continuously stammered some words. The system announced that he had successfully slain the Ant Queen and been rewarded with the Queen's core together with a chest. So far he have collected 2 kinds of heart core, and his exploration seems to be quite fruitful. At the other side, Sir Miyamoto sliced off the head of a beast and a monk prayed for it to rest in peace. His subordinate came to tell him that so far they had gotten 600 points, and Sir Miyamoto stated that it means he won't commit suicide. They all laughed out and stated that this time around they will make the Dragon Country lose utterly. At this time around, the system announced that they lost the bet and their village was eliminated since they didn't have enough point. Sir Miyamoto watched as the attribute point of the people in his village reduced and the screams of pain. He looked at his loyal subordinate on the ground, who raised his hands towards him and stated that he was dying. Then he watched as each of his people died and some shouted for him to save them. He was shocked and trembled. He clenched his fist because he couldn't do anything to save them. He knelt down on the ground as he listened to their complaint of why they had to anger the protagonist. Sir Miyamoto bowed his head down as stated that he had lost everything. He had lost his people. Back to the protagonist in the cave. He was sitting down on a rock when a small ant crawled onto his leg. The protagonist told it not to bother him because killing it won't give him any energy points. The little ant fell on the ground and some other ant came to help it out. The protagonist told it that if it wanted to avenge its queen, it had to become strong by staying alive first. Seeming to understand what the protagonist said, the ants started whispering to each other and then they crawled out from the cave. The protagonist wanted to check his rewards, but the system told him that the rewards were being finalized and for him to wait. The protagonist suddenly remembered that his camp won the bet since he was busy killing at that time. Adding together the ant group and Ant Queen that he have killed, it dropped 7 chests. Surprised and happy when he looked at the status window and saw that he had reached level 10. Suddenly saw a mission panel in the status window and stated that he had never seen it before. The system congratulates him for reaching level 10 and asked if he wanted to activate the mission Future Village Head. The mission content stated that he should go to the level 10 Burial Lost Village and find the truth, then kill the devil. Becoming the village head is only the start of the Novik village development, and without the leader the refugees will lose their wood house. The leaders can grow and expand their village by leading their people to build city and empire and even god domain. The protagonist thought of the burial area and the lost village, which means that the place he entered before was not by chance. He found a key to enter the lost village, and when nights come after completing his mission he would enter. The protagonist stated that the number 911 beginner's village had fit no one else but him. He needed to be prepared before heading into the burial desert first. You first add all his attributes point to his states and increase them. The protagonist felt the sense of becoming stronger as his state increased. He stated that it felt awesome. The protagon stated that he already had 5 of sense enhancement ability, he only lacked the taste enhancement ability. After extracting the Ant Queen, his metal control reached D rank and can attach nearby black armor into his body. Additionally, basic metal control had upgraded, and if combined it can form a killer move, which is to pierce and penetrate. The protagonist controlled a metal spike and sent it penetrate 4 pitifully ants. He has also awakened another innate talent called energy output. The energy output is released in an energy formed into body to attack enemies, which was something like the inner chi. When a weapon is attached to the skill, it can increase weapon's damage on an opponent. The penetrate and energy output can help him deal with normal beasts, so he won't have to use the hellfire, which cost a lot of mental spirit. He proudly held his waist as he stated that this time he had gained a lot of loots. He smirked and stated that it was time for him to begin the main event. He brought out all the chests that he had been rewarded with to open. But he was stat-led when a message came in from the status window and he became vigilant. There was a message coming from the number 2 person in their village called Lu Xian. Lu Xian told the protagonist that he had an interesting item that you wanted to trade with him, and he questioned what it was. He told the protagonist that he wanted to trade the Blood Wolf sword with a chest fuse card. The chest fuse card can fuse 5 low-rank chests to a higher-rank chest, and it only works on dark gold and below chest. Maybe other people can't obtain so many chests, but it was useful to him, so he traded the card with his wolf sword. Now it was officially time to start looting his rewards. In the first chest, the protagonist obtained an item called Illusion Shadow Necklace. Thus necklace make a clone with half of the main body's combat ability, and this clone skill need to awaken the 6th sense. After opening the chest together, he gained rank 4 skill equipment and decided to try putting a purchase in the public channel. After putting the purchase to exchange something for fuse card, the protagonist stated that it was time for him to welcome the killing world second night. Then he stated that he was going to find the jackals as he rushed toward the burial village. After obtaining the Wind God boot, his speed greatly increased and he reached the burial village in 1 hour. When he reached the burial village, he killed monsters nearby to level up first and experimented on his new skills. Now he is already level 10 and was not far from the next level, and his combat ability also reached 49 star limit. At the same time, he had reached limit for level 10 ferocious beast extract now. But it seems like he had to buy a lot of ferocious beast corpse in order to level up. After some while, the protagonist stated that the landslide into the burial village was coming. Then the ground opened wide like a big tunnel as he looked at it. This time she didn't fall unwilling, instead he jumped into the ground tunnel by himself. And this time he landed in a much cooler way as he descended from the tunnel. He stood up straight and looked around the village. Nothing has changed, the portal was still where it was. Then a ripple appeared in the portal, the paw of a jackal was seen coming out. Then the protagonist greeted his old friends, the Hellfire guarding dogs, the jackals. After meeting the jackals, the protagonist started fighting with them. He sent the jackals crashed into the broken house. All the other jackals were dead except for the big brother, who asked the protagonist how he became stronger. The protagonist stated that one should be looked up differently at times, but it had only been 1 day yet the jackals were no match for him. The protagonist told the jackal that he remembered it saying they can't die, but he just didn't know their weakness then, but now he had found it. Without mercy, the protagonist cut the head of the jackal, stating that he wanted to see how it will revive itself now that its head was blasted off. The system notification shows that he has successfully killed the jackal and obtained 15 judgment points and also a fragment of dark seal. The system told him to collect all 7 dark crystals and unbreak the demonic altar's seal. He was also told to unleash the demon and kill it to cleanse the burial village. And the first 10 people from the blue star reel that completes this mission obtain 1 gold chest and 200 attribute points. The system stated that he was the 7th within the blue star to have activated this mission, and the protagonist immediately knew that it was talking about Earth. The protagonist walked into the portal as he thought of the fact that 6 other people had already obtained the leader's scroll. It seems like they are crouching tigers and hidden dragons in the blue star, and if he doesn't hurry he will not make it to the top 10. After entering the burial village he realized that something was different. A fat man with a sword in his hand jumped at the back of the protagonist to behead him. The protagonist was shocked because the system had multiplied the difficulty of the mission due to winning multiple bets. The protagonist evades the attack as he listens to the system saying that his village was the only one that has its difficulty increased. The fat man laughed out and stated that the protagonist was only a level 10, no, the king and shall as well die before him. He wanted to tell the protagonist that he should watch as he kill him, but before he could speak his head was cut off. The protagonist stated that level means nothing if the person don't have the power. The system announced that he has successfully killed a level 13 and reached level 11 and obtained a dark crystal. Another person with a spear came out and told him that the fatso he just killed was just a pieces of trash. The protagonist turned and looked at the person who just came. His battle power was extremely high, maybe it was due to the mission's difficulty. He faced the young man and told him that he was indeed stronger than that fatso. The young man stomped his foot on the ground and ice surrounded him. He pointed at the protagonist and told him not to compare him with the fatso because he was the bottom of the barrel there. The protagonist's sword appeared in his hand as he questioned if it wasn't scroll to say such thing about his friend. The protagonist pointed his sword at the Iceman and told him to go and apologize to Fatso in the grave. The Iceman blocked the protagonist's attack while telling him that he was just a level 11 rookie. Then the Iceman counterattacked, wanting to stab the protagonist in the stomach, but the protagonist evaded. Before the Iceman could stabilize himself, a fist with force came rushing towards him. The protagonist hit him on the face and he coughed out blood with some of his teeth falling down. The protagonist sent him crashing and exclaimed that even if he was level 11 he would still fight him. The young man on the ground told the protagonist that he forgot to mention that it was best not to touch him. The protagonist looked at his hand, which was frozen, as the young man told him that he could freeze anything that touched him. This freezing will make them unable to move and they will be left at his mercy. The protagonist was frozen and he told him that to return the punch he gave him he was going to crush him bit by bit. The protagonist watched as the spear got closer and closer to him before he broke out from the ice. Then the protagonist stabbed him with metal spikes through the chest and the system announced that he has successfully killed him. And he obtained a dark crystal together with 120 judgment points and 8,000 EXP point. The protagonist told him that he also forget to tell not to get close to him because whoever did that will die and become points for him. Suddenly a demon roared angrily and the mist became thicker. The protagonist was surprised that the dark mist had become thicker after the demon's roar. After the demon roar, 4 people came out from different locations and walked to surround the protagonist. The eyes of true sight showed that these people were demon followers who were resurrected with dark energies after dying to malevolent demon. The protagonist stated that there should be 7 followers as there's 7 dark crystal, but one person was missing. When he turned back he was stunned to find out that she was behind him, but he couldn't sense her. Then the lady at his back placed her hands together and started chanting like a saint. The protagonist questioned what was happening to him because he felt dizzy and couldn't move his body. The other demons laughed out happily as they saw the protagonist fall into the charm trap. Then the protagonists appeared in a place filled with flowers at the left but desert at the right and questioned where he was. Suddenly one of the butterflies turns into a beautiful lady like a fairy in children's tale. The protagonist was dumbfounded when the fairy lady started dancing in front of him. They all smiled as the protagonist walked toward the demon lady in reality. The other demon lady stated that the protagonist's weakness was low mind, and the male demon told her that the protagonist was doomed. By Ruwa, the charm lady demon kept telling the protagonist to come towards her little by little. Then the charm lady demon raised her hand up and told the protagonist to hold it. Immediately she did that. All the other demons rushed towards the protagonist because that was the best time to attack him. The helmet guy appeared at the back of the protagonist, raising his axe up to attack him. Just when they all thought they would finally subdue the protagonist, he opened his eyes widely and the charm disappeared. He appeared at the back of the helmet guy with his sword, which showed that he was not charmed. Then he slashed the helmet guy with his sword into two, ending in his life in one strike. He also speedily beheaded the other female demon with his sword. The protagonist stated that when the demons were tricked, that was the best moment to attack. The remaining three demons were all shocked because of the protagonist's words. The female demon shouted out that the protagonist had tricked them and didn't fall for the illusion. She angrily shouted for the two beside her to attack the protagonist together. The demon wearing a cardigan was stepped on by the protagonist and finished off at once, while the other old man attacked the protagonist from the back. The protagonist caught hold of the hand of the old man holding a sickle. He sent him crashing into a rock and his life was snuffed out. The female demon with the ability charm appeared at the back of the protagonist. The protagonist angrily told her that she was seeking death and slashed at her with his sword. But all that was left around him was flower petals and he was puzzled. The protagonist was shocked that it was an illusion, but he felt like he had cut her into two. The protagonist looked around and stated that the strange demon woman must be hiding in the petals. Suddenly an attack was sent out from inside the flower petals. The protagonist evaded the attack, which almost sliced of his head. The protagonist cursed because the petals were strange and blocked his field of vision, so you had to quickly leave there. The protagonist used his metal spike to attack the petals, but it stabbed onto a corpse instead. The protagonist, who jumped up to run away, was tied down by the flower petals. The protagonist stated that the woman had both illusion on earth talents. The lady walked towards him and told him that he was very interesting. As a level 11 warrior, he could kill a level 15 messenger. The demon lady stated that he must have secrets that make him strong. She stated that she knew he won't tell her, so she decided to kill him and let her master check his memory. But before that, he would have to pay the price for tricking her. She stated that he needed some teaching, so she used the petal hand to smash the protagonist on the ground. The protagonist grits his teeth as he stated that the demon woman was so strong he couldn't move his body. Then he decided to remove the crystal armor. In that movement his body and petal will have gap. Then he can bring one of his hands out from inside the petal hand and activate his Hellfire Flame ability. Then the protagonist broke away from the flower petal and unleashed hellfire towards the demon woman. The demon lady was not prepared and got burnt by the hellfire flame. The protagonist came down from midair and saw the demon woman trembling. The demon woman now looked tattered as she stated that it hurts all over her body. The demon woman questioned why he can use more than 3 skills, because no one can have more than 3 skills. She shouted that he was despisable and cheated and the gods should have killed him. The protagonist called her mere weakling and questioned how she dared to say such a thing. The system announced that he had killed a level 16 Wraith Messenger of King rank and obtained 140 judgment points. In a square was an altar, and inside the altar a formation can be seen drawn in the center. The Wraith Messenger was becoming more intense than before, and it seems like it was about to flow out the altar as the protagonist put the 7 core in the formation. The core activated the seal and started releasing Wraith, the main master of the burial village. The protagonist standing in front of the altar stated that the seal power was weakening and for Wraith Messenger to come out. With a loud bang the seal broke and dark clouds gathered around the altar as Wraith Messenger came out. Because of the force coming from the seal, the protagonist couldn't see much of what was in front of him. The system announced that the newbie protagonist had successfully released Wraith and was now a level 13 warrior with 58 combat star. The first thing the protagonist saw was a thunderous huge feat of a monster. He looked up and stated that the monster had a scary rank he had never seen before. The protagonist assessed the monster's information and saw that it was a level 17 Emperor rank monster with 71 combat ability, and he couldn't check its talent or skill. The monster attacked the protagonist, stating that it was him who killed his underling and destroyed 100 years of its efforts. The protagonist stated that this monster's attack could instantly make his hand go numb because it had a very scary power. The monster suppressed the protagonist under its hand as the protagonist tried to hold back the weight. The protagonist saw the clear face of a real monster in front of him as it attacked him from the other side. The monster smashed down at the protagonist with great force, sending debris flying everywhere. Seeing the blood on the ground, the level 17 monster thought that the protagonist had already died. The monster stated that he thought the protagonist will be quite powerful to kill 7 of his underlining, but it was such a disappointment that he died so fast. From under the monster's hand, the protagonist spoke, telling the monster that he was sorry to disappoint him mockingly. The level 17 monster was shocked that the protagonist was still alive under its hand. Luckily, the spikes were extremely resilient. They stood in front of him at the moment after being hit, which resulted in deflecting half of the impact. The protagonist rolled out from under the level 17 monster's hand while using spikes to hold it. The monster stated that the protagonist didn't get killed by him with one hit and was still moving fast. Then he concluded that the protagonist was stronger than he expected. When the monster attacked, the protagonist shifted back using the spikes and then jumped to attack the monster. But to his surprise, chasing windsword and spike can't cut through its defense. Then he used the Hellfire power, which was 10 times stronger, but it still couldn't harm the Wraith Messenger. Instead, he was the one sent flying back, so he decided to test the same rank 3 energy. The level 17 monster just waited mockingly for the protagonist to attack it. Then it used its hands to block the attack of the protagonist, sending it flying towards somewhere else. The protagonist landed on the ground after the attack didn't work. The monster called the protagonist a cunning human and stated that he knew quite a lot of weird moves. The protagonist stated that he had used all the attacks he could, but he still couldn't harm the level 17 monster and questioned if he was fated to fall this mission. The protagonist thought of something. This was just a beginner village boss and it will definitely have a weak point, so he might have missed something. When the monster landed on the ground after attacking the protagonist, he saw something through the leg. The protagonist smiled as he thought that he hadn't tried it there. He brought out his sword from the space ring and rushed towards the level 17 monster. The protagonist slashed at the joint of the monster and appeared in it back. The monster growled out as it shouted that it would tear the protagonist apart. Suddenly, a hand made from some weird substance rushed to attack the protagonist and he was startled. The protagonist didn't think much and cut the weird hand into 2, but he didn't know an attack was coming from his back. By the time he looked back and realized it was already too late, he couldn't dodge it. He was sent flying a few meters away by the level 17 bull monster. Because the force used to hit he was too hard, he coughed out some blood. However, his regeneration ability healed him fast and increased his states. When he saw the message that one of the top 10 slots had been taken, he didn't want to waste time anymore longer and attacks the monster by making a clone of himself. The protagonist beats the monster up to the extent that it started complaining about why the protagonist was so strong and he couldn't see through the protagonist power. The protagonist used his rank 3 Hellfire energy, unleash and spikes with poison to attack the monster and believed that with these multiple moves he will be able to break through it some more. The people from the protagonist village kept watching other village entering the top 10 and only 6 slots was left, so some began panicking. A lady questioned why the villages were entering the top 10 very fast and another person answered that it was because the expert's combat ability was almost the same. One of the people prayed that the protagonist be safe. Even if they fail to enter the ranking, they can still do it another day. Lu Yuan stated that he believed that the protagonist would definitely succeed in entering the top 10 rank. Then the system announced that the number 1 beginner village, that is the protagonist village, had successfully killed the Wraith monster and entered the 5th place. The protagonist finally killed the monster and he felt that the fight was very tiring. The system congratulated the protagonist village for entering the top 10 ranking and questioned if he wanted to check the truth about the burial village. He agreed immediately and the story started. It was after the ending of the beginner's assessments, which was not a new start but a nightmare of extinction. The protection barrier was removed and the judgment angle descended on the village. This judgment angel was an existence that cannot be shaken by the strength of 100 human. As the leader of the village, he couldn't protect his people, he couldn't protect his teammates or his loved ones. He was way too weak, so when he tried to fight with the judgment angle, he was stroked once in the heart and died. The judgment angel just turned around and left as he lay in the blood of his people. He developed a very great resentment due to the death of everyone he wanted to protect. Then great monsters sought his resentments and controlled him like a puppet. The monster made him move around just like the puppets would. All his resentment was taken out from his human body. The protagonist held his chin as he looked at the truth regarding the burial village. After the leader died, he was controlled by the demon king and turned into a monster. The protagonist saw that this was the final test given to the beginner village, but he didn't know how strong it was. Then something caught his sight in the status window as he forgot about what he was thinking. The protagonist folds his arms and stated that it was very troublesome. At a different place, some people complained that the level 8 ferocious beasts were so hard to kill and they almost died. Just then the system announced that another village had been established named External Night Village, and the people from the protagonist village questioned when he would establish their own village. The people looked at the chat channel and saw some other village flexing about their established village, so they decided to call the protagonist and know when he will establish their own village. Different people from the protagonist village called him to know when he was going to establish the village, and the protagonist told them that he was there to answer their question. All the people started praising the protagonist, saying that he was handsome and to accept their bow. Then suddenly the girl in front of her statue's window trembled while stuttering. The male warrior asked the female warrior to quickly ask the protagonist when he will establish their own village so that they can show all those people what they are better at. The protagonist told them that they still needed a cool name for their village and questioned if anyone had thought of it, and some stated that they can name a tyrant village or even God's village. Someone stated that since they are from the Dragon City, the name Dragon Abyss would fit much better, and the protagonist agreed to that fact while praising the name. After the name was decided, an ancient scroll appeared in the thin air with some energy revolving around it majestically. The protagonist smiled and looked up at the scroll in midair while stating that since the name has been decided, so the village should be established. The scroll activated the village establishment formation and a bright light went straight to the sky, shining everywhere it passed. The people from the protagonist village who saw it were all amazed by the wonderful luminary in the night sky due to a village establishment. A magnificent scene happened because just out of thin air a vast village appeared, and the system announced that the mission difficulty had been calculated and each of the villagers will receive points together with the protagonist. The people of Dragon Country jubilated on the creation of their village, and now they all had a return panel which could send them back to the village. With the return panel, one can be teleported back to the beginner wooden house, and villagers can use it once per day while the leader can use it 3 times per day. The male warrior happily pressed on the return to village button and his teammate tried to stop him, but it was too late. The happy male warrior appeared inside his wooden house in the newly created village, but he came back alone. A young man came into the wooden house and shouted to his brother that he was back, and a lady inside the wooden house mentioned that the wooden house could save their life during the crisis. The panel still had a return button and one can return to the place they teleported from. Also, the house can increase recovery speed and the return function saves them so much time. Outside, the people were calling their neighbor to come out to the plaza and make a bonfire to eat barbecue, and some questioned if the protagonist will come home and join them to celebrate. Suddenly they all received a message that the village leader, the protagonist, has opened the entire village video conferencing function unique to the village leader. The protagonist told them to listen to him and stated that after the beginner's assessments ends, all the beginner's village will face an 100-star judgment endure. He told them that the judgment angle's goal is to destroy the wooden house, and after losing the beginner's wooden house everyone will become homeless and lose 100 attribute points. The people complained that after clearing the beginner's assessment they will have to face a judgment angle with 100-star combatability, and if failed they will receive a penalty of 100 attribute point lose. The protagonist told them that likewise if they win the village will get a great amount of rewards, and if they defeat the angle the reward will be doubled, and they still have 4.5 a day to reach level 10. Additionally, upgrading their village can gain the permission to build public buildings such as Guardian Altar, which can be used to fight the judgment angle, so they needed to achieve 5 conditions to upgrade their village. First, the population needs to reach 500 in their village, have achieved that, and second, the village leader need to achieve the title of newbie emperor, and thirdly, the leader's wooden house need to upgrade to level 2. And the fourth was to make the wooden house of level 1 reach 100 or more, and the fifth was to have more than 10 people with level 10 ability or above, though it would be troublesome. They needed 10 units of wood, 5 units of stone and 1 unit of beast fur in order to upgrade their wooden house to level 1. Someone said that they could split into 3 groups to collect these items and trade in the trading channel so that it will be faster, and others agreed to his idea. After the protagonist closed the village-wide video conference, he looked around the place he was as he thought of the upgrading materials. After realizing that he could find the upgrading materials in the burial village, he smiled happily. He entered the upgrading channel and taped on the upgrade button, and the system notified that he had used 10 unit of wood, 5 unit of stone and 1 beast fur. The system announced that the protagonist had upgraded his wooden house from 0 to 1 level and obtained 50 attributes point. The system also announced that under non-sleeping condition the recovery speed of an injured person is doubled, and in the sleeping state the recovery speed is tripled. The people in the village started praising the protagonist, and some even questioned if the protagonist was a real god, which made him strong. Then the system made a global announcement that the village established had reached 100, so from then on the village upgrade competition will officially begin. In Blue Star, at another village named Eternal Night, a vampire named John Blast can be seen drinking the blood of a human being without the person's consideration. Vampire Prince Dracula by the side holding a glass of blood questioned John how the situation was as he left the person he was drinking the blood from. John told the prince that all the 914 villages have become citizens of their blood clan, and the prince commented that it was not bad and soon they'll become the strongest force in Blue Star. The prince poured the wine down as he stated that the Eternal Night village goal is to become the top 3 in the village upgrade competition. He poured the blood on the man lying on the ground and stated that the gods gave generous reward this time, and if they enter the top 3 they will receive good rewards. The man on the ground opened his eyes in few minutes, but something have changed in him as his eyes looked red with no iris on it. The man with red eyes stood up and rushed towards somewhere, while the prince stated that with the reward they will be able to dominate the Blue Star. The vampire prince told John not to worry because there were only 5 villages that can pose a threat to their village, and the protagonist village was also included. The vampire prince broke the blood glass and stated that there was high probability that a top expert appeared in the protagonist country, but that will not change their weak genes. Because to the vampire prince humans were weak and not worth mentioning in front of him, as they were just blood banks to them. At the other side, the protagonist was ordering the spikes he made to put some woods over at a particular place, and was even thinking about the 1000 attribute points he will get if he enter the top 3. After adding all the obtained attributes reward, his combat ability reached 83 stars, and now he had the title as a beginner emperor. If he could get 1000 attributes points from the village competition, maybe he'll be able to defeat the Judgment Angel and save his village from demises. As the village chief, he was required to upgrade his house to level 2, but now he only lacked 1 rank first stone and he could be able to upgrade the beginner's wood house. And coincidentally, the frost stone is produced in the spring water lake where the one-horned tortoise king rests, so he would have to journey to that place. The protagonist stretches his hand and stated that he could complete 2 missions together. Just then the system announced that the protagonist had contributed 723 units of wood material. The Dragon Country people started snatching materials in order to upgrade their house to level 1, and some praised the protagonist for his consideration. The protagonist with a proud face exercises around as the system opened a new channel, which was the exchange channel, where he could donate things and obtain contribution points. At God Resources channel he could be able to exchange for resources that he needed, such as kitchen utensils and foodstuffs like salt and vinegar. And this God Resources channel also have a Novic rank energy stone that allows one to obtain 10 strength points after absorbing it. Which meant that everyone can become stronger through other ways apart from killing ferocious beast, which could be dangerous. And also villagers with low talent or non-combat talent have other means to survive, such as cutting woods and exporting for the upgrading of house. And soon in the future, life professions such as carpenters, miners and butchers will be derived, making it possible for the creation of new products. And with the Dragon Abyss Village generous resources, it will be enough support those with life professions and let them maintain a good leveling up speed. The protagonist sormasutted into the river he found while running and stated that in the future Dragon Abyss Village will only become even better. The protagonist went deep into the water with his thoughts while closing his mouth tightly to avoid water from entering. But he forgot one thing, and that was the fact that he couldn't dive, and soon he started choking and decided to go back up, but a sea monster already saw him. When he came out from inside the water, he breathed in some fresh air as he reprimanded himself for being so smug that he almost died in a stupid way. Suddenly the protagonist realized that the water was sinking down, so he wanted to move, but before he could do so a huge fish came out and swallowed him. The huge fish entered back into the water, but before it could do anything the protagonist cut through its stomach and came out. The system announced that he had successfully extracted the monster's talent and gained a C-rank talent called Water Truth. After obtaining this talent, the protagonist was shocked to see that it now had gills and could breathe inside the water. Then he saw many huge fish with only one eyes at the center of their head staring intently at him, ready to devour him. Now he can breathe underwater. He felt like the talent came just right on time. Then he used his ice ability to freeze the one-eyed monster. After roaming inside the water for some while, the protagonist caught hold of a crocodile and used it as a ride, shouting for it to fist up like a horse. This lake was too big and it has been 1 hour since he came here, but he still hadn't found the frost stone, though he would have to find its owner. The protagonist hit the head of the crocodile, asking if it had lied to him on purpose, and I've been stalling for time, but the crocodile screamed out that there will be there soon. He wouldn't dare to lie to him because the protagonist suddenly barged into his home and split him from his wife, forcing him to search for frost stone. He was tied up and carried out from his house, and he told his wife to wait for him to come back to find her, but now he was sobbing and questioning if he could be able to see his wife again. The protagonist stopped the crocodile from moving when he saw a tortoise bypass them and went toward a direction, so he followed it to know where it was going to. Then he saw a huge tortoise with 2 heads, one looks like a snake and the other like a bird head. They both relaxed, snoring inside the water. The protagonist told the crocodile to move back if it didn't want to die later, because he won't take responsibility, then checked the information of the tortoise. The crocodile thought that he was finally lenient towards it, but was disappointed when the protagonist told it that if it ran away he will find it and cook it. The crocodile turned around and left, while protagonist wanted to first get the 3rd king core and then go and find the frost stone. The 2-horned tortoise questioned what the protagonist, a mere level 1 human, was doing in his territory, and even the dares to offend him. He asked if he was seeking death. The small little turtles floated towards the protagonist to attack him, but he used one of his ability to send them all flying away as the horned tortoise watched. The snake tortoise at the back immediately became enraged and screeched towards the protagonist with that ability. The attack hit the protagonist and he was sent back by some meter, but since he didn't know what the attack was for, he couldn't defend himself. After that attack, the protagonist questioned what they were doing because he saw that all the little turtles were rushing back to the leader. The protagonist at the top watching was shocked to find out that they were getting into formation to attack him. He has never seen something like this before. Although the mammoth and devour metal ants also attacked in group, but they didn't have a tactic and can't focus all attack at a target, but this tortoise are different. But the problem was that if the tortoise were to work together, he might not be able to win this fight. Then a rain of water arrows fell towards him. When the bird-head tortoise saw that the protagonist had used a defense ability to block the water arrows, it started gathering energy in its mouth. Soon enough, the energy in its mouth became very strong, and he sent out a huge water ice arrow towards the protagonist. When the protagonist saw this strong attack coming towards him, he deactivated his defense ability and evaded the attack, rushing away from the place. He kept thinking of the best ability to use to counter-attack, but he knew that his Hellfire ability is unusable underwater and the strength of the elements weakened. The underwater beast also had a terrain advantage, so even if he's stronger it will still be hard for him to kill them, and just then an arrow punched through his leg. This was very bad. He was just focused in his thought and wasn't looking out for any danger. Now he was hurt, so it will be very hard to escape. He grits his teeth and evaded the attack coming towards him and then hid behind a rock with his injured leg to recover. Then the whole tortoise stopped in suspense and looked around to know where the protagonist was, since they couldn't see him. With a loud bang, the seal broke and dark clouds gathered around the altar as Wraith Messenger came out. So he decided to aim for the king first, and then he called out his shadow clone to aid in the fight. A clone of the same future as the protagonist came out and knelt in front of him, and he told it to go and make it chaotic by changing his running trajectory. The clone immediately rushed out by the protagonist command to make it chaotic and changed the protagonist running trajectory. When the horned tortoise saw the cloned protagonist, he told his army of tortoise to attack him while the protagonist clone evaded continuously. After running towards a different location, the real protagonist came to a conclusion that it was time for him to start moving. As the whole army and the king were attacking the protagonist clone, the real protagonist followed the back and escaped, and none of the turtles noticed. But before he could run to a far distance, he realized that his shadow clone was already blown to pieces by the attack of the king tortoise. The protagonist changed his trajectory and started running towards the king tortoise while the king of turtle was questioning what was going on. Then the king tortoise realized a presence at its back and turned to see the protagonist attacking it head, but it was too late to evade. The head of the king tortoise was blown up by the protagonist ability power frenzy. The snake by the side was affected by the shook. Then the second tortoise king, the snake, launched an attack at the protagonist, opening its bloody mouth wide to swallow him. The protagonist moved back and used his ability shadow restriction to hold down the second king snake tortoise. Many red claws broke out from the sea ground and held the snake tortoise tightly from reaching the protagonist. Then the protagonist clenched his fist, instantly squeezing the snake to death with the shadow restriction claws. The system announced that he has successfully killed the Horned Turtle King, which was a king rank, and obtained the mission item King's Hardcore. The system announced that he had leveled up. Then at the other side, when the turtles saw that their king was dead, they all started running away. The protagonist looked at the group of turtles without a leader or stated that it was time for him to harvest them all, so he created more shadow restrictions. Then the protagonist, together with his clone and the shadow restriction, rushed towards the army of tortoise, which was trying their best to fight him. The protagonist awakened a skill named Ice Storm that enabled ice arrows and ice dagger to be released, so he used it to attack the turtles. The attack he used was a real meteor type attack skill, and he felt like the reward for killing the Turtle King was better than expected. The crocodile appeared and started praising the protagonist, but in its mind it stated that once the protagonist let him go, he will definitely leave there with his wife and will never come back again. The protagonist sat on top of the back of the crocodile while it told him to sit tightly so as not to fall off when he moves. At a different place, someone was holding a device that looks like a cell phone and watching the protagonist, who already obtained the third king core. It was a lady with stars on her cheek. Then she started that the protagonist was quite handsome and wished that she could date him. But her comrade told her not to think about it because the humans in Shao Qian Word have natural weak bodies and aren't able to grasp innate ability. She also said that even if they were able to reach the minimum level, they won't be able to make it through the Million World War, let alone meet her. The lady also stated that the protagonist was currently in a village that had more resources than his, and even when his mission was difficult he still completed it. But she said that clearing the difficult mission of obtaining 5 King's Hardcore was not his biggest problem, instead it was the Dragon Slope War, and she hoped that he would surprise them. At the other side, the protagonist felt that it was weird because the second place was taken away from Lu Yuan by Lu Xianels, and it was so fast. He didn't know what they did to increase their level so fast, and now he was suspecting a person named Qi Jie who had never entered the leaderboard before. In the channel, the protagonist saw that there were selling products to obtain energy stones and questioned if energy stones were that much in demand. The protagonist came to a conclusion and stated that the two people were silently becoming rich and called them cunning fellows. Donating one newbie weapon can receive 2 contribution points and 1 energy stone is 10 contribution points, but the 2 are selling 1 energy stone for 10 weapon. With that they will gain a profit of 10 contribution points, then trade them for energy stone to level up. So now he realized why they were leveling up so fast. There were about 10 million weapon in their area without owner, so if he exchange for points his people will level up and have a chance to go against the Celestial Punisher. Just then the protagonist heard a scream at his back and was startled, so he turned to look at where it was coming from. Inside the forest some thugs could be seen bullying a lady and feeling that they were unlucky to meet her because she didn't have much things with her. The lady on the ground being molested by a man stated as she had given them everything she had and for them to let her go, but they didn't agree. She shouted out that if the protagonist find out he won't let them go. Then they told her that if the protagonist wanted to help them he should just tell them how he levels up. The lady lost hope as tears slides down from her eyes, but just then she saw something at the top. It was none other than the protagonist pointing his finger at them. He told them that they were not suited to be called humans to lay their hand on their own kind. The protagonist knew that this kind of thing was unavoidable because in this cruel world of death everyone is experiencing a competition that has an unknown finish line. Some will follow the rules and push themselves as they head forward, while others hide in the dark waiting for a chance to hurt others for their own good. The only thing he could do was get stronger and do his best to not let these things happen in the Dragon Valley village. The protagonist dropped the girl near the village and told her to go back to the village and tell everyone to watch out for people like them. The protagonist stood on top of the eagle as it flew away and the girl thanked him before waving farewell to him. The protagonist decided to go and check what the village chief is allowed to do once the village levels up, and if he could send wanted poster no one will commit evil on his territory. But if he find any people doing evil on his territory he will make sure that they can only live like a mouse in the gutter. Using beast taming art to control a winged beast can conserve a lot of travel time than walking or controlling a land beast. Too bad that all the beasts are too low leveled, so none are worth taming to be his spirit pet, and so he wish he could get a spirit beast from his next chest. He landed on the ground near a bunch of beautiful flowers which the divine eyes showed that it was a diluting human eating flower with 24-star combat power. The protagonist collected his sword from his space ring and stated that he would kill the bunch of human eating flower. Then he rushed into the flower and started cutting them into pieces, and the man-eating flowers were screaming in pain. Suddenly they all started shouting for someone to save them, stating that the cutting hurt. As the shout for help continued the protagonist closed his ear as he felt like the noise was too much. Just as the protagonist was complaining that the noise was too much, additional voice joined, making it worse, like a bunch of mosquitoes. This time the man-eating flowers that came out and joined in the chants were much larger. They joined in together and sent an attack to the protagonist. A pink smoke spread everywhere around the protagonist, and when it touched his hand he realized that it can corrode. That was when the protagonist fell to the ground after realizing that the pink mist was poisonous. Then the protagonist appeared out of thin air after realizing what it meant, that the flowers were undying. He felt like it was more like a level 15 beast plant. Indeed, the protagonist didn't die. What fell down at that time was his clone. He could never do things without knowing if it was safe. Then he attacked the monster. The flowers were all shocked and started running, stating that the protagonist was very strong. He didn't die by their poison. The protagonist was shocked and questioned why they were running, but that didn't mean that he will let them do so. You followed after them and successfully killed the human-eating monster and obtained a green wood core used to build a cabin. He stated that they were pretty smart but just too slow, and when cut by a normal sword they can still regrow it. However, since he used the hellfire they can't grow again. He got 110 energy points and over 20 attributes point just by killing along the way, and felt so good. His combat power has grown to 87-star maximum. He felt like the leveling speed was very amazing as he stabbed another human-eating flower. This flower seems to have fled to a very distant path, and the protagonist followed while slaughtering all of them. Then he activated his divine sight, which was the upgrade of the eyes of true sight, and looked at the thing hanging on the tree, which was a blood-drinking wasp. Then lots of wasps started coming out from inside the nest and rushing toward the protagonist. There were too many wasps, and if the protagonist was attacked by all of them there will be gap in defense, so he'll have to use his new talent. The protagonist raised his hand up and summoned a huge amount of ice ability. Then a cloud of ice floated from different places, gathering of the side of the protagonist. The wasps all turned around to escape because they felt the threat from the protagonist attack. The ice ability the protagonist summoned turned into a huge large amount of ice spikes, which was very terrifying to look at. The protagonist smiled and activated his rank 4 ice storm, which he got after killing the horned tortoise king. Then the protagonist sent the ice spikes towards all the wasps to clear them up, and none of them survived. The system announced that he has successfully killed some blood wasps, and his level started going up until he reached level 13. The wasps all fell to the ground, which already turned snowy because of the protagonist ice ability, and they slowly got buried by the ice. The protagonist looked at all this going on with a calm face and a smile and sighs out of the cold coming from the ice. The protagonist stated that he used a rank 4 talent after all, and these 3,000 wasps were all killed instantly in one go. Then he pointed at a tree not far away from him and stated that it was its own turn to die. It was an old deadwood beast at king level with the combat power of 53 star. Just as he finished speaking, slowly the once ordinary looking tree started transforming into a young lady with blue hair. This beautiful lady was dark-skinned with tree cloth on her body. Together with her spiky blue hair, she exclaimed that the protagonist was very interesting. She spread her hands and all her hair stood up, spreading everywhere, as she stated that many years had passed since a human came to the forbidden area. She emphasized that it being long since she tasted human blood and now she missed it, so she told the protagonist to become her fertilizer. As her spiky hair spreads more and more, the diluting human-eating flower started growing out from it and rushing toward the protagonist. She shouted for them to kill the protagonist, and a golden wasp's king, the combat power 47 star, broke out from a nest and rushed towards the protagonist. The protagonist stated that it was just in time for him to test his ability. Then he called unto the corpse of the beast on the ground, telling them to take his command. Then all the dead wasps on the ground floated up to the air by his command, listening to whatever he said. When a wasp blocked the way of the golden wasps, it tore it into two and continued rushing towards the protagonist, shouting that it would kill him. Then the protagonist commanded the little wasps, and they all rushed towards the golden wasps. The golden wasps was surprised and puzzled when the little wasps perched on it, not letting go. But before it could think any further, it was blown up, and the system announced that the protagonist had successfully killed the golden wasp's king and obtained the golden wasp's king jelly. The protagonist smiled and stated that the soldiers he killed cannot possibly win against a full-blood bee king, so he used some tactics. He also stated that when using beast taming art to awaken them, he struck some hellfire into their bodies. The tree demon was shocked that the protagonist can use fire and ice, two completely opposing elements, at the same time, so she didn't believe it was possible. The protagonist smiled and continued, telling her that as soon as the controlled wasps came in contact with his target, he used the hellfire to explode them. The protagonist stated that it was a Pyrrhic victory, but the result was as clear as she could see, so it worked out well. Just as the protagonist finished speaking, he disappeared from his spot and appeared in front of the demon, slashing down at her. But she was very fast and used her hair to block it. Still, the protagonist cut through her hair. The female demon was shocked that the protagonist could cut through her hair. She moved a distance from the protagonist as he raised his sword up and rushed to attack her. The tree demon questioned what ability the protagonist had that could hurt her and not let her heal the wound. She stated that she couldn't continue like this or she would die, so even if it takes a lot of effort, she would have to use her best move. She chanted a spell and a purple energy gathered around the protagonist, and he was startled. The protagonist raised his sword up and looked at the tree demon and questioned what the purple energy was. Before he could finish questioning what the purple energy was, he entered into a space filled with purple liquid. Before the protagonist knew what was going on, the purple energy invaded his body and he began aging at a very fast speed. The protagonist's leg kept sinking into the purple energy, and he realized that she wanted to steal his life force and make him die of old age. Then the protagonist activated his ability, the miracle healing art, and a green energy spread through the purple space. The protagonist was shocked to find out that the purple mist that is absorbed into his body cannot be undone by his healing ability. Remember that wood-type beasts were afraid of fire, so he decided to use his Hellfire ability to burn the purple mist. After activating his ability, the protagonist wanted to spread it throughout the space, but instead it went straight into his head and started clearing all of the purple mist in his body, but it was very painful, excruciatingly painful, as he felt like his head would explode. Then he knelt down on the ground as the Hellfire finally completed its job, and he coughed out some blood, which was the impurities leaving his body. Once the impurities left the protagonist's body, he was able to break through the dark mist space. The tree demon looked at the protagonist, who was able to break out from her finishing move, and exclaimed that he was inhumane. The protagonist activated his ability and prepared to punch the tree demon because he almost died in her hands. But before he could attack her, the tree demon immediately knelt down in front of the protagonist, and he was puzzled and confused. She acted pitifully in front of him, telling him that she failed to recognize his strength and was sorry for attacking him, also that she had not harmed humans for many years. The protagonist didn't know what to do because the tree demon stated that she knew he was here for her king soul crystal and she would happily give it to him. She brought out the soul crystal and showed it to him while planning to sneak attack him, since she thought that his vitality was low due to the fight he had. The tree demon wants to distract the protagonist so that her children, the man-eating flower, will revive. Spark appeared in her hand as she took out an egg, telling the protagonist that she had a rank 5 fire eagle battle bird, which was a compensation. She told the protagonist that the fire eagle had the blood of a phoenix on it and will become very powerful when it matures. She bowed, waiting for the protagonist to collect the egg, but was questioned by the protagonist on if she thought he looked like an idiot. He told her that the man-eating flower behind made a lot of noise to the extent that he couldn't pretend he didn't notice it. The protagonist killed the flower at his back and pointed his sword at her, telling her that he had thought she would be different from the other beasts since her level was high, but she was the same. She wanted to stop him and say something about the Fire Demon King, but was beheaded by the protagonist without mercy. The system announced that he had successfully killed the tree demon and received 10,000 points and a silver chest. The protagonist extracted the tree demon's ability and obtained a C rank ability called Sixth Sense Connection, which then evolved to a B rank ability called Spiritual Sense Connection. The system informed that due to the evolving of his sixth sense, his ability Beast Taming was upgraded to rank 4 and he could now increase the pet strength by 60%. The egg the protagonist got had the bloodline of a vermilion bird and would be able to reach Terra rank, which was 100 star and above. The protagonist activated an array and stated breeding the egg, and after some while he expected it to come out. Then a cute little fluffy round bird broke out from the eagle bird egg and stared at the protagonist. After seeing it, the protagonist squatted down and started poking at it, questioning why it was so small. The little fluffy round bird got angry because of the protagonist poking it and transformed into a huge form, then resized and became small again. The protagonist, who was affected by the aftermath of a transformation, sat on the ground and praised its aptitude after seeing it information with the divine eyes. If using spirit connection arts can increase its power by 60%, which is 80 star, then the probability of defeating a celestial punisher will increase. The protagonist named the little bird Luan, and then the system messaged that he was currently using the spirit sixth sense connection. And since he used his blood to hatch it, from then on he and little Luan will have a related-like bond. Then the sys informed that a pet relationship has been established. The protagonist smiled at the firebird, whose loyalty towards him was incomparable to anyone in the world of slaughter. Spirit communication allows him to understand the language of his pet, so it won't be a problem of understanding his battle pets. The little fluffy bird was calling the protagonist master continuously, and the protagonist questioned what was wrong, and it told the protagonist that it was hungry. After hearing what the bird said, Thunderbolt struck him as his original happy face turned dark. Now this is the first difficulty of raising a child, as he never had thought about the idea of feeding a pet or even a daily expenses. The protagonist questioned if the little fluffy round bird eat animal meat or humans, but immediately denied that idea of giving a human to it as food. The little fluffy round bird body was still small to fly him around, so he just had to use a flying beast instead for the time being. The bird said it was hungry, and the protagonist started feeding it, as he emphasized that it was a good thing it didn't eat human meat, or else he wouldn't know how to raise it. Suddenly the little fluffy round bird stated that it was not just a mere beast but was strong and other beast won't be able to beat it, so he protagonist agreed reluctantly just like a father. The flying beast flies fast and reached a huge volcano mountain, and not just one but lots of around the area. The protagonist told him little fluffy round bird that they had reached the blazing hell mountain. Inside the blazing mountain in the lava some monsters with one huge eyes can be seen swimming inside the lava without feeling pain or burning. The protagonist was surprised that the monster's demon and was known as the lava demon, and just then the little bird screamed out that they were delicious. Before he knew it, the little fluffy round bird rushed down into the blazing mountain towards the lava demon. The small little thing which might be overlooked had the strength to kill all the lava demon in the blazing mountain. The little fluffy round bird jubilated because it had just exercised its body. Then the system announced that the protagonist had killed a monster and earned some points. Suddenly the fluffy round bird started sucking into the air and the demon beast he had killed floated towards it. All the lava beast floating towards it were swallowed, while the protagonist stated that he was still able to receive energy points when the little bird kills monster. The system announced that the bird had successfully killed a high-level beast, which dropped a voucher of demon, a tier 2 item, and using the card can make him receive 1 prestige point. When a person receives a certain prestige point, he or she will receive a title bestowed by the heavens, and it could give points and increase power. There are 3,000 lava demons there, and killing all of them will at least give him 100 voucher of power. The protagonist had put the other cards into the trading channel to help his people increase their power and reach level 10 faster. The system announced that his pet had increased to level 2 and became a 60-star combat power beast. Suddenly all the little lava demon were sucked and turned into a huge monster, which was the lava demon king with 52-star combat power. The demon king was angry because of the fluffy round bird attacking it people, so it attacked the little bird and the little bird faced it head on. The protagonist knew that the little bird could deal with a demon king with 52 stars, so he decided to check on the situation of the Dragon Abyss village. When he did, he realized that some people had reached level 10. Since he attained the title Newbie Emperor and the newbie's wooden house had been upgraded, so the Dragon Abyss village now has 95 level 1 wooden house, which was not far away from leveling of the whole village. Suddenly the trade channel appeared in front of him as someone sent a message that he wanted to trade with the protagonist. After seeing the message, the protagonist exclaimed that someone was making a losing proposition just to trade with him. The person told the protagonist that you wanted to use 3 tier 3 item in exchange for his tier 3 sword. Then he showed the protagonist the items. At the other side, the little bird and the lava demon king were still fighting, and the little bird was playing around with the lava demon king, not taking the fight serious. When the effect of the fight reached the protagonist, he just used his defense ability to guide himself and continued looking out the message in the status window. The person who wanted to trade told him that it was because the 3 items were contaminated, which caused it grade to reduce to level 2, so he wanted to trade it for a rank 3 grade cleaver. When he looked at the information of the 3 materials, he was shocked that they could be able to increase his darkness resistance by 100%, and it was like a treasure to him. The protagonist smiled and decided to trade with the person, since the weapon not only increased his darkness resistance but also his strength ability, the agility and physique. After trading with the person, he collected the first item, which was the Bracelet of Light. Then he extracted it with his endless extraction innate ability. When he put on the right Bracelet of Light, it showed that it was a rank 3 item with the strength resistance ability and agility resistance, and the same for the left Bracelet of Light. Then he put on the Arm Guard of Light, which was the Relic of the Light Messenger, a rank 3 item with defense plus 60, physics plus 50 and darkness resistance plus 100%. The protagonist looked at the Relic of the Light Messenger and questioned if there could be a hidden quest information inside it. Just then the system announced that the Dragon Abyss village had reached level 10 as the 10th place and received 2 bronze treasure chests, so the 100 level 1 wooden house in Dragon Abyss village has been upgraded. The system informed the protagonist that his village has reached the requirements to upgrade, so the protagonist told the little bird to come back, so the little used its ability Heaven Blaze Fusion. As Little Bird activated the ability Heaven Blaze Fusion, it broke through the head of the Demon King, scattering all the little lava demon. The little lava demon scattered from the Demon King and all fell from the sky, plunging back into the lava. The little bird was happy that it finally killed all of them. They were just food to him because of the flame, and it was just playing with the Demon King before. After the little bird had killed the Demon King, a monster inside the blazing mountain lava opened its huge eyes after sensing the death of the lava Demon King. Just as a little bed was still jubilating, the protagonist called it and told you that a huge hand was behind it and for it to be careful. The little bird sent a mind transmission message towards the protagonist telling him that the monster was too strong and asked its master to save it. The protagonist appeared at the top of the place where the hand of the monster was and blocked the attack so that it won't hit the little bird. The monster didn't seem to feel that the protagonist's attack was anything and closed his hand, break the ice into the debris. The monster in the lava stated that the protagonist was very interesting as a person from a small world who became emperor-level expert among newcomer in a short time. It was a very close death call, but luckily the protagonist used the one-click return village function in time and appeared inside the beginner's wooden. Now that he was back to the Dragon Abyss village, he decided to upgrade it first before doing any other thing. After pressing the upgrade button on the status window, the 100+ house in the village started upgrading to rank 1. The system announced that the upgrade was successful and congratulated the whole villagers for receiving the blessing of Tao of Heaven, gaining 50 attributes reward. It also congratulated the protagonist for receiving the blessing of Tao of Heaven, gaining 100 attributes reward. The people of Dragon Country were happy and decided to give the protagonist a shout out on the public screen and wanted to see what is required for reaching level 2. In the Blue Star Realm at the Eternal Night Village, controlled by the vampire Prince Dracula, an autumn waterside lake is surrounded by forest. The vampire Prince Dracula came out from the waterside lake and he seems to have gone down to get something. He gave John the frosty stones he got to use and upgrade his house to level 1 and have the authorization to upgrade the village to rank 1. John told him that in the whole Blue Star Realm they were the strongest force in it and will be the first place in the ranking list, so the prince laughed out happily. Before he could be happy, the system made a global announcement that the first rank 1 village in the Blue Star Realm has been upgraded. Then he stood nude and felt awaked. The person who changed the ranking was the protagonist. The system told him that the level 3 newbie wooden house upgrade privilege has been unlocked. The protagonist looked at the conditions needed to upgrade to level 3 wooden house and happened to have all the required materials. Then the protagonist told the system to upgrade his house to level 3. Then a visible change occurred as the once wooden house changed to a house made with brick. When the protagonist and the little bird looked around, their eyes shone brightly when they saw the kitchen, which was shining because of its cleanness. When the protagonist saw the fluffy bed, he was so happy because it had been long since he slept in a bed. And the last of all, enjoying himself with a warm bath in the bathtub together with his fluffy round bird, and 3 days passed by just like that. The protagonist looked at the countdown on the screen and realized that only 4 days was left, and if they don't reach level 3 they won't be able to deal with the Celestial Punisher. He wished there was other ways to earn attributes point, and just then a robot named Sasha appeared and congratulates the Dragon Village for getting the chance to double reward. Sasha stated that if the protagonist doubled the difficulty of the competition and wins, then his reward will be doubled. He would gain 2,000 attributes and the village 1,000. A countdown appeared in the face of Sasha as it told the protagonist that he only had 10 minutes to consider, then make a choice. The original upgrade conditions are almost met, but the only thing he was not sure if was the materials and conditions required for the Guardian Altar. He came to a conclusion that if it also takes 1 to 2 days to upgrade, then there was not much time left for upgrading to level 3 village. This opportunity is rare, and if they succeed, the Dragon Abyss village won't have to worry about the Celestial Punishment assessment anymore. Outside the Dragon Abyss village, everyone was outside watching the big robot with a countdown on it and waiting for the protagonist to make a decision. Lu Xian stated that their Dragon Abyss village have been relying on the protagonist for everything, so whatever decision he made they will support. And if it weren't for the protagonist they might have died, and at the other side the protagonist had made a decision, so he agreed to increase the difficulty of the village competition. When the villagers saw that their reward will be doubled if they win the village competition, they were happy but was filled with sorrow when it was said that the conditions had doubled. The villagers started gossiping about the earth-shattering news, and a young man filled with fear stated that their village was done for. An elderly man told Lu Yuan not to be so negative, and Lu Yuan pointed to the conditions, telling him that the first requirements was for them to reach a population of 1,000, but they only had 937 people. The people of the village started complaining that if they don't have up to 1,000 people they won't be able to level up and might end up dead. The protagonist told them to calm down, that after he complete a C rank mission he can find the Temple of All, teleport to another village to recruit people. The females who were in tears exclaimed that it will be great if they can recruit from the remaining 17 Dragon Kingdom village in Area 1 and also save some lives and complete their mission. The protagonist told them not to worry, that they were all people of the Dragon Kingdom and he will do his best to save them. He told everyone that the difficulty of the mission was high, so he will assign everyone a job so that they can work together to speed up the progress of the requirements. The people raised their hands up and agreed to what he said, also stating that whoever refused to listen to him will be removed from the village. New functions were opened, which was the villagers' tracking system and the voice message command system, which was unlocked after upgrading the village. The protagonist stated that from then on everyone below 40th place in the level rankings should go cut down wood and gather stones. Lu Xian and Lu Yuan, also Qi Jie and the other top 10 should head towards the Ant Mountain west of the Fallen Plains to collect metals. The ones that are in the 11 to 40 place should work on leveling up to level 10, and the energy stone Lu Yuan and Qi Jie makes are to be handed to them and no one else can take them. The level 2 newbie cabin need ice stones and he have placed them in the donation channel, so everyone should exchange them accordingly. The protagonist got 2,000 donation point for doing so, then he clenched his fist and stated that they had to get their village to level 2 in 2 days. Everyone in the Dragon Abyss answered in unison that they would listen to whatever command the protagonist made. Going to face off the Demon King with his current combat power was okay, but he needed to level up his items just in case. The protagonist stated that the treasure chest combination card and silver treasure chest he had been working so hard to get enough is finally going to be used. The system informed that he had successfully used the treasure chest combination cards and created gold chest ×2, which successfully combined to make a dark gold treasure chest. He successfully opened the treasure chest and obtained rank 5 items Heavenly Knight Sword, which increased one's attack power in other states by lots. The protagonist collected the sword and stated that with this godly weapon named Heavenly Knight Sword it would be a piece of cake to defeat the Fire Demon King. The protagonist together with his fluffy round bird looked confident, and he stated that the Fire King should wait for him because he was coming. The protagonist used the return button to go back to the blazing Hell Mountain and saw a fiery red lotus in the center of the lava inside the volcano mountain. Suddenly a hand waved at the protagonist and an individual called the protagonist human, telling him to look over at him. The person at the top of the lava mountain told the protagonist that he knew his presence was not high, but for the protagonist to look at him first. The protagonist questioned the individual on who he was, and the red-hair boy asked if the protagonist was talking about him and started telling the story about how he had barely squeezed the neck of a newborn firebird and it died. His tribe thought he didn't feed the firebird properly, so they tried killing him, which was annoying, so he killed them all. Later the Heavenly Tao told him that constantly roaming around wasn't a good thing, so it told him to stay in the blazing Hell Mountain. The red-hair boy appeared in front of the protagonist and told him that the Heavenly Tao also gave him a name, and that is the Fire Demon King. The protagonist was shocked by its speed of appearing in front of him, while the Demon King told him that he was curious about him, who was from a small 1,000 world in distance himself. The protagonist remembered that the zombie from before came from a medium 1,000 world, so he questioned if the world was divided into small, medium and big 1,000 world. And the protagonist came to a conclusion that it seems like the ones from the medium 1,000 worlds are always stronger. The red-hair boy looked at the protagonist evilly and questioned why he asked, stating that it won't do him any good to know. Fire suddenly appeared in the hand of the red-hair boy, then he stated that it was enough of the chit-chat and it was time for him to start his job of killing. Then he raised his hands up and summoned many mutated glass fire snake with the combat power of 37 star from the depth of the volcano mountain. The protagonist and his pet stood watching as the mutant glass snake rushed towards him by the order of the red hair boy who told them to kill the protagonist. The protagonist brought out his sword and looked at the mutant snake rushing towards him and told the fire demon king that it was underestimating him. The protagonist sent an ice storm towards the fire mutant glass snake rushing towards him, the fight of ice and fire. The ice storm stabbed the fire snake and they all started dying one after the other, and the little bird also aided the protagonist by cutting the beast into two. The killed beast dropped a new item called fire glass, but he didn't know how to use it, and just then a beast tried attacking him from the back, so his sword to cut it. The red hair boy laughed out easily, complimenting the protagonist on how he killed the mutant fire snakes. The Demon King raised his hands up and gathered fire energy around, stating that he wanted to see how strong a level 15 newbie emperor was. The aura energy gathered by the Demon King was a very familiar one to the protagonist, and he felt it not too long. The Fire Demon King summoned a lava giant from the volcanic blazing hell mountain, and the system notified that the lava giant has been demonized. This was the same monster that reached his hand out after his little bird defeated the Fire Spirit King, and the little bird was scared, so it hid at the back of the protagonist. After using the divine eyes to see the information of the Demon King, it only had 100 star combat power, so he came to a conclusion that he could defeat it. Then the Fire Demon King moved the giant lava to attack the protagonist, telling him to die as he laughed out like a madman. After the attack from the Fire Demon King stated that the protagonist didn't die, which meant he had other tricks up his sleeves, and said he wanted to see how long he would last. The protagonist caught hold of the huge hand, smashing on him with his two hands, and the force made the ground around him starting to break. Soon enough the ground broke and the protagonist was pushed back by the lava spilling out from the broken volcanic mountain. The protagonist somersaulted and landed in a much better place and stabilizing himself, and due to the fact the fire giant is being controlled by the Fire Demon King, it won't be easy to fight it. If he could restrict the movement of the Fire Demon King, he would be able to restrict the lava giant, so he told the little bird to hide because it was dangerous. Then the protagonist rushed towards the place the Fire Demon King was, since he has decided to restrict it first. When he got close to the place the two were, he jumped up and attacked the giant lava, slashing his sword on it arm 3 times. Then both the Fire Demon King and the giant lava grimaced in pain as they both held their right hand, and the Fire Demon King grits his teeth to hold himself from crying out in pain. When the Fire Demon King turned back, it saw the protagonist in the mid-air ready to attack the giant lava, so he shouted out for the lava to be careful. Before the protagonist knew what was happening, he was sent flying by the fist of the giant lava and fell right down, almost entering into the, but he was fast enough and used his new ability to create a fire defense ball. The protagonist stabilized himself and told the panicking little bird that he was fine, and since the bird was not the giant lava opponent, it was better it goes somewhere and hide. The protagonist looked at the Fire Demon King and stated that when the giant lava receives damage, he would also receive it too, so the protagonist stated that it would be easier than he thought. Then the protagonist activated his ability Shadow Chain and sent some fire chain hands towards the Fire Demon King, who was startled.